I don't know if anybody can hear us.
We're checking to see if y'all can hear us. If you can hear us, let us know in the chat.
This is all new.
Because if you can hear us, we're going to talk bad about you. Or if you can't hear us. I don't think they can. It says it's muted. All right, here we go. Hey, what is going on, guys? We got to stop our music. Ryan, go back and stop our music. There we go. Okay. Hey, guys, what's going on? We're trying a new format for you tonight. Hope you guys are having a great Sunday.
There you go.
Did you get it?
Yeah, you were just in welcome and not QA.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
Fun stuff, man. So we're going to be going through some different things tonight. This may have some hiccups, but trying a new platform for the streaming. And so we're going to try to add some new stuff, get a little creative with it. So as you can tell, my voice is still kind of trash, but I don't want to miss hanging out with you guys tonight. And so if I have to cough, I'll have it close to the mute button. But let us know in the chat how our audio sounds as far as like our levels, because we now have the ability to kind of match those, but I can't hear my voice, and Ryan can't hear his voice. And I don't think Jonathan can hear his. So we're having to match each other's, if that kind of makes sense. So let us know in the chat. Yeah, I know you can hear us. So one of you guys say something, just make sure that we're about the same volume.
Hello,
Jonathan.
Yeah, test 1 2 3.
Jonathan got much louder.
I didn't change anything.
Yeah,
right, leave yours there.
Right.
We can pull you back down a little bit. Yeah, Jonathan sounded pretty loud.
Still loud? Better? I can turn my gain down if I need to.
No, we can adjust you.
Yeah, I think you're good there. Cool, man. Chris, he says my earballs. Jonathan is loud. So everything should be pretty close now. So I know chat's just coming in. So, all right, cool, man. Well, we're going to go ahead and get started. Hope you guys had a great week. What have you guys been up to? Santa, what's happening, man?
Hey, I thought we'd be a little festive tonight.
I love it. I love it.
I had another opportunity to test the Turnoff and Storm this week with a couple more guys, and the results were polar opposite of the first time. So that was interesting. We did that this week.
Interesting.
Well, it wouldn't be interesting if it didn't become opposite. I mean, then what would you have?
Sure. One thing we got to figure out is how do you solo somebody? So if Jonathan was speaking, how do we?
You had it earlier.
It doesn't have the same buttons for sure.
It's fine. We don't need to do that.
So we'll figure that part out. Ryan doesn't like it when I make his head bigger than what it already is.
I already have a huge head. Don't do it again.
He's like, oh man, I'll try not to laugh as much tonight because that's what gets me really coughing. Did Ryan get the Christmas jumper hat email? No idea.
What is a Christmas jumper hat email?
I'm not sure.
I don't participate in anything jolly. I mean, look at this face.
I don't
this
know
is not a jolly face. I may be jolly on the inside, but physically, no.
Not at all.
Not at all.
So we're going to have some fun tonight. We're getting ready for Christmas. You guys busy?
I'm always busy. We have like 5 million different Christmases to go to.
Mm-hmm.
So that's always exhausting. I mean, it's fun to see everybody, but sometimes it's just nice to sit at home and not do anything. And with my basement being a complete and utter wreck, it's just, I don't know. It's fun. I don't know why I'm saying it's not, but it's just a lot. What about you, Jonathan?
You got a lot of stuff going on?
Just normal family stuff. Megan's family's coming in for a couple weeks from Pennsylvania to stay with us, so the in-laws will be here. I like them a lot, so that'll work out great. It'll be fun.
Very cool. I like it, man.
What about you?
For the most part, man, I just been sick the whole week. I got sick probably on Monday. Almost lost my voice completely. It was really, really bad. Today's definitely the best that it sounded, but sometimes it'll cut in and out. And I was literally getting ready to basically film my Arendal 1723 THX. Got all my notes written out and everything, and I was ready to do it. And basically that night I went to bed. I'm like, man, I feel cold. I ended up going to bed with fever. Out the next morning, I had a fever, and then it broke. And then the rest of the time, my voice was just trash and coughing like crazy. And so I've just got the crud that everybody else has got. Tested for COVID. It wasn't COVID. And but yeah, it was just, I got these pills that they don't even do anything, man. They're like these little orange beads. I don't know if you guys can see that.
That looks
I
like
don't know
vitamin
why.
D.
They're supposed to go
Yeah.
in your butt,
No,
and you're
Oh.
taking them orally.
maybe that ain't why. That's why they're not. I'm getting ads during the live stream. They should only come up once every 30 minutes. So if you get one every 30 minutes, we're doing good. Just click skip. So yeah, they shouldn't overwhelm you. If they do, let me know. Definitely in the chat. So um, two of the guys don't drink. I don't drink. Yeah.
Don't drink.
I drink. The only alcohol I drink is the stuff in cough syrup. I think that has alcohol. Maybe.
I'm just imagining you now, just
Socially?
sit in the back of the room, just
I'm hitting the NyQuil hard, man. I'm like, woo, I'm feeling goofy, man.
here comes Michael staggering out of the room.
Like,
Hey
what's he got?
guys.
Oh, that's NyQuil bottle. What the heck? Yeah, man. I've heard all of it. I've heard the somebody said not rum, not whiskey. They were saying something with honey, and it was like a little concoction. They're like, yeah, that'll take care of it. I'm like, I don't know. It'd be kind of weird. A pastor going up to the convenience store saying, "Hey, man, can I get a bottle of whatever they told me to get?" So
Depends on who you're asking if that's weird or not. I don't know.
yeah, I know, just for me, but Michael's definitely a stoner. Definitely not. I've actually never smoked marijuana ever in my life. I was one of those straight laced kind of kids. I didn't get involved in anything. I was a goofy kid, and fortunately, the friends that I hung around in, literally from elementary school, middle school, high school, I had the same group of guy friends, and they were just pretty straight up guys. I mean, a couple of them they liked to drink on the weekends and party, but I wasn't involved in that. But yeah, we just about the stupidest thing we would do is see how fast we could go over railroad tracks, see how many people we could fit in a vehicle, like unsafely. Yeah, scary stuff, man. I mean, like, yeah, we shouldn't be alive. But yeah, so, but yeah, man, good to see you guys. Say hi to some folks in the chat. Let me scroll up here. All right. Yeah, so this is even our layout's a little different. Bruce, appreciate you, buddy. Good to see you, golf addicts in the house. Chris, Michael, who else we got? Peter's in here. Lots of folks. 314 Carpenter, Tito. Good to see you, guy. Howard, Charlie, Nicholas. Lots of folks in the chat. Jay. So a couple things that we can't see. Well, I guess no, we can see how many people are in the chat in this one, so that's good. Cool, man. So everything's pretty good on this end. So if we're running any hiccups, like I said, we're trying some new streaming platform to see if how it compares to StreamYard that we've been using for the past 2 years. So we'll show you some stuff later on. It's kind of cool, different. So unless you guys, what was your movie for this past week?
I didn't watch it.
Okay.
I didn't even know what it was.
I failed. It was Shin God. We'll do it this week. It's Shin Godzilla. I got caught up with way too much stuff going on, and I just never got a chance to get around to do it. So we will do it this week because with Godzilla -1, I think it's pertinent to do a comparison to see how they stack up. And then you got the Godzilla series. You got the new Legendary one that just got announced, Godzilla and Kong. I don't remember what it's called, but it's going to be awesome. There's a lot of stuff.
Cool.
I mean, maybe not awesome for Jonathan because he thinks all those movies are dumb, but you know, I don't. I'm dumb enough that I think they're all amazing. So
I might play Michael this week and be like, skip, pass,
Yeah,
pull
man,
every
it's
card.
gonna be-
Shin Godzilla's story's actually good. Aw, you guys are lame. Fine, pick a different movie.
I'm gonna get some hate in the comments.
Pick
probably,
a
'cause I know
different
there's
movie.
Godzilla fans, but I'm not one of them.
Oh my goodness, man. I literally was trying to hold a cough in and it just exploded right at about the time I hit the mute button. So hopefully y'all didn't catch that. And I'm like spitting all over my monitor. Man, then I started laughing.
Is Shin Godzilla, is it a mainstream Hollywood movie or is it like
No,
a...
it's the Japanese storyline.
Mm,
So no.
I hadn't seen that one. Got some folks. Tango, good to see you. He's from Denmark, man. Yeah, I'm feeling fine. I say that. I'm not. I feel actually okay. I've got good energy. A couple days ago I didn't have good energy. Um, the hard thing is I just don't have a good voice right now, so that makes it hard. All right, man. So what else? Anything else before we jump into some questions?
I don't think so. I'm working on my room update because I know
Yep. So
that's
what you got?
needed. I haven't had. I'm writing it, so you guys can talk about other things while I'm doing that.
You're writing it.
Yes, I'm updating the Void
Oh,
build
on
thread.
your I
Yeah,
got you. I got
yeah.
you. I got you. So yes, I did. Where's it at? Hey, right here, Paul. So I just had an opportunity to hang out with Matthew Pose. I say just about 2 months ago. Went to his home. Dude's got a great, beautiful home. Really cool home theater. I did a full home theater tour. That was quite a bit different in the sense that, dude, Matthew's got the heart of a teacher. He's super, super knowledgeable, knows his stuff in regards to, designing acoustics. Um, and it was kind of interesting because I walk in his room, and sometimes when you walk in a room, you have some preconceived ideas of how it's going to sound. And I know Matthew knows his stuff, but I walk in his room, and the first thing I see is like hardwood floors. And I went, oh, goodness. Okay, this is going to be interesting, because we've always been taught always put carpet in a room. Don't have hardwood floors, don't do tile, things like that. And so we started talking, and of course we did some demos, and he also had in-wall speakers. And in the past, most in-wall systems that I've heard, I mean, they're okay, they sound good, but I've just never been like, oh my goodness, this was a really awesome experience with in-walls. Typically in-walls are going to be like a compromise, because you know you don't have a dedicated space. You're using the space inside your wall, and that's going to be different. Depending on how your wall is configured. If your exterior wall, interior wall, a lot of different things can kind of vary the size and shape of the quote box, the back box for that. But I listened to his system. I was like, holy cow, dude, this thing is awesome. Um, he had some RBH subwoofers. He had just a couple different things in for review. So he had one RBH sub in the front right, and then he had a dual 12 in the back left. And I think some point after that, he had, I think Jeff sent him 4 RTJ subs. So he's got 418s in there now. I'm like, dude, that would have been cool, but it was still a great experience. But he's got a super, super home theater, but it's chock full of all kinds of information. It's long. It's just over an hour long. It's an hour and about 4 minutes, but it's got a. I had somebody comment. They said, "Man, I'm only 5 minutes in, and he's already spitting knowledge, like just sharing stuff that I don't know." So definitely go check that out when you get a chance. It's a really good one.
So you said he had the hardwood floors. Did you come away thinking you were a fan of that, or was that still strange at the end of the visit?
No, it was what it taught me is that if you know what you're doing, like he intentionally put hardwood floors.
Mm-hmm.
But what he did do is he accounted for that in how he designed the acoustics of the room.
Mm-hmm.
So he has like, one thing I learned is he prefers to alternate um, absorption and reflection.
Mm-hmm.
And so he'll have, a section that's absorptive, the next section is going to be reflective, and so forth. And I think as he gets to the back, it's more dispersion. And then he even had this kind of stepped down absorptive on the ceiling, which it covered the whole top.
If
So
you're
he
gonna
was,
do the hard flooring, you have to treat the ceiling.
yeah. And the other thing he mentioned too is because of the Perlison's design, the beam forming, it's got a really narrow vertical dispersion.
Mm-hmm.
So there's not a lot of interaction with the ceiling. There's not a lot of interaction with the floor. So that helps too. So if you had a different type of speaker, it might sound different in a room that was hard. He said normally he either told me this or I saw it in a Facebook post. He said a lot of times what they'll do when he designs a room, if they want hardwood floors, no problem. But a lot of times they'll put some, no, I'm saying it opposite. If they do carpet in there, he still will try to put some hardwood somewhere in there just to kind of break it up. So it's not just because really he thinks that's too dead
Hmm.
for the bottom layer. So, but it was just cool, man. Just picking his brain and just having fun with it. So if you guys get a chance to watch that, like I said, it was really awesome.
I started watching it. I didn't get that far into it before I had something else come up, but I'll go back to it.
All right, so I'm gonna ask you guys to help out quite a bit on this stream. Um,
I
whether
don't
it's
have the
reading,
capability to star right now.
oh, we
I go
just need to,
like usual.
yeah, I need to give you, well, I mean, like speaking.
Oh,
I don't
okay,
want to be
sure.
the, I don't want to be the main one. So
I'll
even
be
like
there in a second after I finish getting.
when we're reading comments, even if you can do
Hmm.
that and take the lead on, I'm totally cool with that. Um, and that way I'm just not speaking the whole however long. Uh, da, 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 da. All right, well, let me go back here and we'll just go ahead and dive right into it. So, Jonathan, I'm gonna let you read some of these if you're cool with
Sure.
that.
I saw an ad on Facebook for new technology called Perfect Vision. Supposedly, it allows you to watch 3D movies without the use of 3D glasses. Do you know anything about this? Is it worth looking into? I don't know about that. I haven't heard of that.
Mm,
Let's do
I
a
haven't
web
either,
search real
Bruce.
quick. Perfect Vision.
So part of this, while you're looking that up, 3D's never been a big interest of mine. I think the biggest reason is because I wear corrective lenses. And so for me to put a set of glasses on top of a set of glasses, number one, isn't comfortable. And I think there's some interference there. So I'm not getting the same effect that somebody would have that doesn't have corrective lenses.
Nothing at all is coming up when I'm typing this in. Perfect
Interesting.
Vision, 3D
Perfect
without
vision.
glasses. Let's just try
Yeah.
without, just 3D.
Um, and Bruce, while he's doing that, thank you so much for the 199 super chat. Oh, he said, here it is. He says, correction. It's called Perfect View 3D TV.
I was going to say the only thing came up for me was like eyebrow pencils with perfect vision.
Ryan's ordering those right now from Amazon.
Uh,
Some eyebrow pencils. 3D, Perfect View 3D TV.
I'd still not find anything, man.
Hmm.
There's a YouTube video, but I'm not going to watch that during our stream here.
Mm-hmm.
There's no website on it that I can find, at least
Interesting.
with a quick Google search.
Yeah.
I don't know. We talked about that kind of stuff before. In general, it's going to be very specific placement when it works, like kind of like hologram technology. And if you rotate a little bit over to the side one way or the other, it's going to kind of collapse to some degree.
Mm-hmm.
It's cool. It certainly would be neat if they can expand it to work from more locations, but it's not
Yeah.
going to be like a multi-seat theater functionality. Probably
Yeah.
it would be more like for a single seat or a small seating area type
Mm-hmm.
functionality. The way I understand it,
Yeah.
as it exists now.
Yeah. I actually had somebody give me it was an 80, I think it was an 82-inch TV a while back. I bought a bunch
What?
of I'm dead serious. I bought a bunch of speakers from this lady. Um, and it was over probably a couple months. Actually, no, it was over a year. I went there, got about $6,500 worth of speakers, paid 2 grand for it. Made 3 trips to get that deal and 3 hours one way. So it was like no, yeah, 3 hours there, 3 hours back, something like that. No, no, I'm sorry, hour and a half there, hour and a half back. So it's 3 hours, but I did that 3 times. So it was 9 hours to get that deal. And then later on, I'm like, hey, if you ever got any more stuff you want to sell, let me know. I'll come up with some, I'll save up some more money. And she texted me back, hey, I got a list. Here's some more stuff I'm selling. All right. I like that. I like that. And how about if I give you another 2 grand? She goes, all right, cool. Come on. Like, I like this lady. I'm gonna send you a Christmas card. And um, but yeah, so I was leaving with the last uh, set of speakers, and she says, hey, do you want this 82-inch TV? And I said, I got nowhere to put it, you know, and even to get it to my home. And so I get back to the house and she texts me maybe like the next day and she said, "Hey, I was serious about this TV. If you want it, you can have it." It was expensive a couple years ago. It wasn't like flat panel back then. I mean, this was a little while ago, but it wasn't big, humongous, bulky either. It was kind of like angled in the back, so it was a little bit bigger on the base. Um, but
Mitsubishi DLP probably.
oh man, I can't even remember. I'd have to go back and look. But it was I even have a photo of it. But anyway, so um, I said, you know what? I bet I could just go rent a U-Haul trailer. So I'm like, sure, I'll come get it. So I make another 3 hour drive, get an 83-inch TV, 82-inch, and she had 6 pair of 3D glasses, and so that was like my first real time trying it out. And I'm like, yeah, this ain't for me. So I sold the glasses on eBay for a couple $100, and then the TV. Um, I used it for a while, but I had a 103-inch at that time in the theater room, so 82-inch really kind of looks small compared to a 103. So I was like, I never used it.
And
And
therein
so I'm like,
lies the problem with TVs in general still,
yeah,
right? We're at that same point all these
yeah,
years later.
yeah. I was just like, well, I guess I don't need this. So I sold it for like, I don't know, $1,200 or something. So that worked out good. So, but she was just going to put it in storage. And she's like, I don't want to put it in storage. I don't want to pay for this thing. So I said, all right, I'll take it. So,
Chats are saying my vocals are a little hot and yours are a little slight. Can we
okay, I
change
can
that a
turn.
little bit?
That's fine. Sure. Let me go here. So if mine's hot,
Yours
all right.
is quiet, mine's hot, they're saying.
Oh, I'm up as loud as I can get,
Can you
and you're
drop me in
hot.
or you want me to hit my gain?
Um, you can drop yours down a little bit.
I dropped a little bit. All right.
Okay, he's gonna back him down a little bit. Me and Ryan are up as high as we can go in this software, and literally on my little Focusrite solo thing, I'm almost wide open. This says Michael is clipping. How can I be clipping
If
when
he's
somebody
quiet.
said I'm too low? Oh my
I
gosh,
think they're
man.
just giving you grief. Hey,
Well,
so there's
y'all
a
get
cool comment in there I want to speak to. It says, "Do Jonathan or Ryan have recommendations for how to get the local home theater group more engaged and ideas how to make meets more interesting?" Yes, and it's from direct experience because I started with the exact same problem. When I was first really trying to get interested in the hobby and hear a lot of gear and stuff, and really like making it purpose driven to go hear a lot of stuff,
Mhm.
was like 2010, 2011 time frame. I had for years before that, I'd kind of reached out to people here or there on the forums, like, "Hey, I know you're in the area. It looks like you got a really cool setup. I enjoy reading your stuff on the forums. Could I come over and check out your theater?" I was like the little beggar kid on the corner, like, "Hey, I'd like to see what you're doing. Can I get a demo?"
Yeah.
Never any responses. Nobody ever replied. Nobody ever gave me the time of day. It was like black hole stuff. It's kind of frustrating.
Mhm.
So I just thought, well, I'm going to host something and I'm going to put it out there and I'm going to advertise it and I'm going to get some people to come over. So that was my first like actual AVS forum get together. And there's been dozens, many dozens since
Mhm.
Dozens.
that I participated in, that not even necessarily hosted. I've hosted a lot of them, but I participated in a lot of them too.
Mhm.
That's the easiest way to get started. Say, hey, like, and what I did was a subwoofer thing. I said, hey, I've got these two Yamo D7 THX Ultra subwoofers. I would like to do a little contest. You have an Epic Empire, you have an HSU, you have a
Mhm.
Seaton Submersive, you have that Jensen sub that's a 15-inch or whatever. And I'm kind of going out to these local guys and I'm pinging all these guys and saying, hey, I'd like to do a subwoofer shoot at my house. I'll host it on this date. It's 2 or 3 months out, so that people have time. Come over, I'll get a bunch of pizzas. We can just kind of like play some clips and see which subwoofer we like. And then that worked. I mean, we had a nice little group come up, and then that group spawned into a bunch of friendships here in Kansas City. They're still alive today. And then we did it again the next year, and then it became more and more like over the course of time as you start meeting these guys. Now monthly movie nights spawn.
Yeah.
The group gets bigger and bigger. They invite their friends over. It really, that's how to do it, man. You can't. You got to initiate. You got to host. You got to use your generosity to get that to spin up. And once it spins up,
Yeah.
you'll make some real good friends. Like I've said it before. Some of my best friends are some from the audio group things. So
Yeah.
it works, man. It works. You gotta take the initiative and take the bull by the horns.
Yeah. That's good advice, man. And I just had a guy from M Wave first year, 2 years ago. he texted me. He was one of our VIPs and the VIP Platinum the first year, and he said, "Hey, Michael, I thought you'd enjoy this." So he sends me a picture or two of some people in his home, and he um he said we were at M-Wave. We started getting together, and so he said we had a recent meet, and so it's just cool seeing 2 years ago they met some folks at M-Wave that were in their area, and they're like, we need to get together, and they're still getting together 2 years later, which is phenomenal. There's
Mm-hmm.
another group, I think Neil, he's up, forget what, Indiana maybe. I'm not sure. Forgive me, Neil. But he's got a home theater group, and so it's cool seeing these like little pockets that are spawning, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm really hoping that what we do here on the podcast and what we do at M Wave will just help be a catalyst for that, because I really think that would really revolutionize the home theater industry if more areas would do such as that.
Okay, I'm
Yeah,
back.
I mean, at the end of the day, there's a lot of people who are interested in this, but maybe not enough interest to like invite people over to their home that are strangers. Like that feels a little bit weird to them, but they might have enough interest to go to your home. Like if the risk is all on you, or if the situation's all on you, then that's a little
Yeah.
bit easier for
They'd
them.
rather not get murdered in their own house. They can get murdered in somebody else's house, but not in their own. It's
Yeah.
it is a very Midwestern thing though, that we're very the hospitality here is very different than what you're going to find in a lot of other locations. So it can be a little weird. My wife thought it was a little weird at first. I think all of our spouses did, and a lot of other people kind of not even our spouses, but other people on the AVS forums and in the communities think it's a little bizarre that we just
Sure.
invite people over. I'm like, hey, you can stay with me. I've never met with you, but you can stay upstairs if you want to. It's not whatever. Maybe I'll die. You'll be looming over me in the middle of the night, but it was worth the experience. I got to share some fun that night before home theater, and then I die, whatever.
Yeah.
So I do think one of the biggest things that you may want to look into, though, or think about is that it takes in a lot of these groups somebody to do it, right?
Mhm.
I think what ends up happening a lot in these situations is people wait for somebody else to take charge, but everybody's waiting. So you got to decide if this is something that you really want to do, you got to just go do it because everybody's going to be waiting. And if you keep waiting, nothing's ever going to happen. So if you want it to happen in your locale, I encourage you to do what Jonathan did, and nothing may happen. Like it may sputter out, but
Mhm.
at least then you know and you have validity to say, oh, well, I tried, instead of just sitting around and then looking back years from now and like, oh, what could have been? You never know. You could have the next big thing here in the States with home theater or in Europe or somewhere else in the world.
You got a super chat in there, I think.
There's a couple super
Yeah.
chats actually.
Yeah. We came to your you had brought that one up, so I just went with it. No big deal. That's perfect. Yeah, because like I said, he can't see the other ones.
It
that are
does not auto pin the super chats.
Yeah, so that we definitely have to manually do. That was a nice feature with StreamYard, is it would tag it or flag it for us. But still, like I said, we're getting
I'm
used to
grabbing the
this.
two that we missed.
Okay,
I
I
got
see
them.
one here from Ryan Loper.
Nope, there's three.
Ryan, appreciate the $5 super chat. Is the Lavoche SAF 184.03 18 sufficient for 100% home theater duty? It only goes down to 30 hertz. Should I switch to a better driver for dedicated theater? I know.
That's let's pause for a second and look that up, because
Okay.
unless it's a commercial box that's port tuned there, if they're just quoting like driver parameters, that doesn't mean
Mhm.
it will stop at 30 hertz.
Oh, okay.
It looks like it's like a do-it-yourself driver. GSG
Okay.
Audio sells it.
Okay. Lavoche. I've heard of that before.
It's got an
SAF.
accordion surround, like a paper surround, so it's not
Can you share your
typically.
screen?
I don't think I can actually. Maybe. Let's see here.
You
Oh yeah, it's gonna
can.
let me. Okay.
Perfect. And we can actually
You got that?
show on. Yep.
Can you see it
Oh,
now?
that's nice.
Look at that fancy jig. We'll make it big so I can see it too.
So it is actually pretty beastie driver. I was gonna say a lot of times with these accordion surrounds, they don't typically have a huge like peak to peak excursion, but this thing's
Okay.
got a pretty massive. peak to peak.
46.
So guys, I just want to point out that we're all the way up. It may just be restream. We don't. This is new, but people are saying, Michael, that you're really quiet.
I'm literally all right. I have my gain turned all the way up on the Focusrite.
But I think
And
part of the reason he's quiet, guys, is because his throat hurts.
yeah, but I mean, I don't think I'm talking. All right, is that any better?
Well, now you're
Because I
really loud
thought,
to us.
yeah. So I mean,
Can you turn
um,
your gain down now? If you did some sort of like gain boost or something, and you turn it down because to find a happy medium.
check. There
Was
we
it?
go.
Is it like a toggle button that you just did to get so much
No,
louder?
it's
No, he
literally
just
a
ate the mic or
dial.
turned his
I
gain
mean,
up.
I'm literally. I mean, I adjusted it. I mean, just very slightly. I'll try to talk louder if it'll help. Just louder than I talk. All right, I'm trying to. There we go. All right, cool.
Well, it's not taking me to the manual right away, but that doesn't. When it says like 30 hertz, and I'm trying to find even where you're saying that. I mean, it's giving you a dB reference at 30 hertz, but it's not. If you put this in a sealed box, it'll play all the way down to DC. Like it's not going to stop at 30 hertz. If you put it in a ported box, it's going to unload beyond below the driver or below the box's tune. Like
Mm-hmm.
the box is tuned to a port tune, not the driver. The driver
Mm-hmm.
has all these different components that do make it have kind of a natural frequency response or a natural peak and so forth, and that peak could be any number of directions. It could be 20 hertz, 30 hertz, 70 hertz, 60 hertz,
Okay.
whatever. That part is built into any driver, and I don't know what this one is for that matter. But it's not going to stop at 30 hertz if it's in a sealed box. That's for sure. So maybe we need a little bit more
That
information on what
manufacturer's
the tunes
data
is.
sheet that doesn't show anything on
It
there.
did. It went to their website,
Uh,
which was. I
lame.
mean, maybe you could chase it down from there, but it didn't take us
Yeah.
directly to the place.
Okay. I gotcha.
GSG has a little. Let me see if I can find it. There is on their site. Here it is right here. So you're looking at that SAF 184.03. Um, and it's saying that it's excellent in a Marty cube to 18 hertz.
Okay. See,
So you're
that's great,
probably,
dude. Yeah.
yeah, you're looking more at a full Marty that's tuned to 14 hertz or something. Man, these are all ported boxes. And it's
Oh,
saying it's excellent in both those categories.
I got you.
So
So
yeah,
that's something that's pretty cool. So again, man, I'm learning, and like I said, Jonathan, you and Ryan both are a wealth of knowledge. So I I guess in my brain, I always thought kind of like a speaker. Hang on a second. So that makes sense now. When you see an actual speaker that has a frequency range, that's because those individual drivers and components are inside a box, a cabinet, and it's either sealed or ported, and that's what helps determine the frequency of those. Interesting. But yeah, I guess in my brain, I always thought a subwoofer had its own like frequency range, but then of course, room gain, boundary gain um, can impact that number as well. It's not like a hard number that you can only reach. Um,
they do have their own like little if you will, where it's going to peak, kind of like we talked about a couple weeks ago on the podcast, where we
mhm.
were saying like they go back to their natural frequency responses. You take them up to the limits of their capabilities,
Hmm.
like that is all true.
Okay.
But any of these drivers in a sealed enclosure, when there's no port tune, they'll play down. It may be up or down, at this side of the graph, but they'll
Right.
play down all the way down. And with DSP or boost, you can get what you need. And here's what he's talking about: the resonance frequency and free air. That's where that 30 hertz is coming from.
Okay.
So that's basically saying that if you take that driver out of a cabinet and you just hold it in the free air, that it's going to be loudest at 30 hertz.
Mhm.
But that doesn't mean it won't play lower. So that's what we're talking
Right.
about. And it's got quite a bit of excursion. Like this isn't your traditional low excursion driver. This is a nice excursion driver.
Cool.
Um, that'd be a fun driver.
Mhm.
I think I've read good things about it on the forum, although I haven't researched it quite heavily. This is just kind of like ancillary antidotes I've heard from people saying that's a nice driver.
Right. So cool, man. So that's good that it goes a lot lower than 30 hertz, just depending on what box you get. And Jonathan, I have no idea how to take that off. I think you have to do it maybe
Let's see.
when whenever you're done.
Well, I got to figure out how to get back to us. Here we go. So stop screen sharing.
There we go. Nice. All right.
Got to get
Yeah.
through these super chats.
Yeah. But yeah, appreciate that, Ryan. Great question, man. All right, so I need to make sure. All right, Golf Addict, appreciate the 5 Canadian question. The HDMI cable that Bose provides with their sound bars, is it a perfect match or should the cable be upgraded? If so, what brand and type?
Audio
Great
Quest,
question.
evidently, obviously, that's the end. $1,000 cable or bust for that Bose soundbar.
Oh man, we're about to boot Ryan. So Golf Addict, and this is just, I know people have varied opinions on cables. An HDMI cable is a digital cable. Digital signals are composed of zeros and ones. And so those zeros and ones make it happen. And with an HDMI cable, it's either going to work or it's not going to work. There's not an HDMI cable that's going for the. I'll add a caveat in just a second. It's not going to improve the sound or change the sound quality of it by switching out an HDMI cable. The only component that could change that is certain HDMI cables don't handle as much bandwidth as others. So, for instance, like an HDMI 2.1 cable can handle full Dolby Atmos, a lot of data, high resolution audio. If you've got some of the older HDMI cables, they just can't support that. It's almost like the pipeline isn't big enough for all the data to fit through. And so you're going to be missing out on some of that, like as many channels and the resolution. But for the most part, man, a cable is a cable on HDMI. So your thoughts, fellas, even if you disagree?
No, I agree full. There, it used to be said that if it's a HDMI cable, it'll either work or it doesn't. It's on off, and I don't think that's necessarily true.
It either works good or it doesn't work good. I guess that would be better because you can't get like if it's looking
you
funky,
can get sparklies and stuff.
Yes,
like
yes.
little
But
weird
to me,
artifacts
that's not working. I guess in my brain, it's like okay, I'm not watching
so
that
I guess
garbage.
where I was going with that is, in the days of analog cables where it was not, it's like it's analog, it's not ones and zeros.
Right, correct.
You would always have this kind of thing like, well, is it getting the full signal or whatever? And I don't believe any of that either, for what it's worth. But at any rate, there was still that mystery. Ones and zeros. When we went to HDMI, people were like, "Hey, it's either going to work or it's not." Period. End of story. And that's not true, because you sometimes get little weird artifacts, and I'm not sure what's causing that. And B, it'll work at lower resolutions or refresh rates or bit depths, and not at full ones because of the bandwidth limitation you're talking about. So if you buy like a 4K HDR 2.1 cable, it may not work at that setting, but it might work at 1080p with 8-bit instead of 10-bit and stuff.
Sure.
So weird, not weird, but little nuances like that affect it.
Yeah.
So there's a bunch of different stuff that can happen with bus voltages, attenuations, cable designs for how it's doing, if it's an active cable, for how it's doing the transitions from just a digital signal into light. So there's many variables that go into this, but Jonathan's right in that they can work, but not work fully. And you can run into HDMI artifacts. This is stuff I run into all the time on MadVR, where you'll get like, sometimes you can get pixelation, sometimes you can get green flashing, sometimes you can get like image duplication, where you'll get an image as it comes across the screen and it's duplicating as it comes across. There's all different kinds of things that can occur when the signal is not being handled properly. Sometimes you can get lucky depending on what the downstream device is doing, and it'll step down, so you get a lower bandwidth requirement. If that doesn't happen, it'll just flat out not work. There's a bunch of different things that can happen. One of the other problems that you run into in the industry is a lot of cables that say they meet a certain standard do not meet that standard. They'll, especially active cables, there are a lot of times where they will say they'll do X, Y, or Z, but they actually run into serious problems when a device is running a certain bus voltage on the output for the HDMI, when their input device needs something going on. They'll attenuate funny. There was a problem. I don't mean to call out, but there was a problem with Ruby Pro a while ago where on their active cables, the heads of them for the converter chips were actually overheating. And after a certain amount of time, they would eventually fail, I would imagine, because a solder point or something else on the chip actually failed and burned off. So there's a bunch of different things that can happen. So I really hesitate to say that it'll either work or not, because there's a lot of situations where it'll work kind of and then not work, or they'll work for a while and then they'll start to deteriorate and then they'll stop working. And this doesn't just go for cables. This can also go for input and output devices, depending on voltages and other things that are going on inside of that HDMI chain of whatever's happening. So there's a lot of nuances. It's a little more complicated than people think it is, but you're not going to run into like an image. There are some, I think this is the caveat that Michael was talking about, that there are some cables that have, is this what you were going to, Michael? Like they have some noise reduction or some things built into them. There's at least one cable that has that. I don't know if it works or not.
No, I'm not familiar with that.
Linus Tech Tips did a thing on it a few years ago, like an I don't even know, but it's a that's hearsay. I don't know if it works. I've never experimented with it. But you're not going to get like a magically better picture from changing your HDMI cable or using a $4,000 cable. That's not going to happen.
So speaking of that, I mean, and again, we've got varied opinions here. WA says a less than $100 AudioQuest HDMI cable can clearly show improvements in image quality compared to trash Amazon cables.
No,
Has to do with the noise leaching and prevention.
I bet you if we put those side by side, unless you're using like an actual failing Amazon cable, you won't notice the difference.
Yeah.
Right.
Like I said, we're looking at zeros and ones. You can't make a 0 and a 1
here
any different than a 0.
Yeah. So there are some things that you can get into with things not arriving to the source properly, but the thing that people need to remember is that air correction on these digital devices is so good now, it doesn't matter. You will not notice a difference. The things that you think you will notice, you will not notice. I mean, it is even doing these HDMI or these image comparisons professionally at like the ones that happen at Value Electronics, the ones we've done at M-Wave. I mean, you got to like stare at stuff and go up and pixel peep and do all this stuff for people to say, you're going to notice a difference. I mean, you are not. I mean, that's my subjective opinion, but I've done enough of these tests to think that my stance holds some validity on this.
I agree. I wish that they treated it a little bit more like TCP/IP or something, where if the packet didn't come, it just didn't work.
Yes.
Because that would throw this kind of stuff out the window. When you get the occasional like green speckle or whatever on there, it does kind of make you wonder, like, well, what's happening here?
That's
Why isn't that
artifacting,
getting
though.
through?
That's a failure.
Like something with, but there's some sort of transmission check that checksum didn't happen right. If there's even such a thing as a checksum in the HDMI standard.
But that's a failure in the HDMI spec. That's not like this is how it is and I'm magically making it better. That is an HDMI artifact, and that should not be there.
Agreed.
Yes, that shouldn't be there regardless.
I would just prefer it was a black screen. If it didn't, like if it didn't get the full packet and it didn't checksum correctly, turn it off. And then you would know. And that's what we were originally told HDMI was going to do. And as far as the other thing about audio changes or leaching noise, no, it's not going to do that. I don't agree with that at all.
Yeah. And I'm of the same opinion. But again, and it's not to say that, if you want to believe that, that's cool. Nothing wrong with it. Nothing wrong with buying fancy cables, expensive cables. It's your money. I just don't see how that's even physically possible.
Right.
We've done some stuff. I mean, that's part of what we do at M-Wave. We do some crazy side-by-side blind A/B comparisons. So that would be my challenge to you. Have it set up to where you don't know which one you're looking at. Have somebody switch the cables around and you determine. And if you can accurately pick it out every single time.
Yeah. You're running into, this is where things start to get really difficult, because if you're switching things out, and there's actually a comment from Chris, he says, where'd that go?
Well, HDMI, I mean, you're not wanting to.
Well, HDMI handshakes are irritating. And the reason I say that the testing of going back and forth can be problematic is because the handshake can take several seconds. So anytime you interrupt the signal, it's gonna have to renegotiate. And that negotiation can take, depending on the number of variables that are changing or that have to be negotiated and the devices that are in the chain, it can take up to
I'll get to you.
10 seconds, depending on what it is. I mean, Jonathan, you're seeing this with the Trinov. And I think a big part of that is because the Trinov, for a big part of it, is a PC, right? It's so it's handling things a little bit differently. And this is something that is known about the Trinov. It takes a bit longer for the HDMI negotiations to take place. But if you have devices like that and you're trying to do an A/B comparison, we talk about the ability for the human mind to remember. If you're trying to remember what something looked like over that long of a time span, it ain't gonna work. I mean, it hardly works when the image is directly next to each other and you're having to look back and forth, let alone try and go from one image to black screen for 5 to 10 seconds and then over to another one. Good luck with that, in my opinion. That would be hard.
Right. And the other thing I think, and it might be kind of difficult to explain this, I might stumble as I'm trying, but so there's HDMI gigabit per second bandwidth thresholds. So if you want 1080p at 60 frames per second at 8-bit, it requires this many gigabit per second. And if you got a cable that was capable of transferring 10 times that amount, it's not going to make that signal any better because it's already doing full bandwidth. Like that's all that requires, and that's exactly what that requires. There's no variance. So when you hit those different thresholds, if your cable's capable of doing it without doing any errors, no matter what cable you get, it will not become a better picture. So I think that is something that bears repeating, perhaps.
There's something else that people need to remember, and I wrote a post on this in the Mad VR Envy thread, that be very careful when you're comparing devices, because there was something that came up like, well, my device X worked and device Y didn't work. And what was ending up happening is the HDMI spec for HDMI 2.1 that those devices were actually capable of was not the same. And because of that, the input device was working with one because it was a lower bandwidth and attenuation requirement than the other device was. And it was causing the the display, to not function because it was actually outputting a higher bandwidth. But what the people saw at the end was these are both HDMI 2.1, but they actually weren't equal. I think one was doing like 30 something gigabits per second and the other one was doing 40 something gigabits per second. And it wasn't an equal test. So I just encourage people to, when you're doing these tests and when you're running into failures and things, you have to know the entire picture. No pun intended, but you have to know the entire picture. You got to know what chroma is being output. You got to know what bit depth is being utilized. You got to know what HDMI spec they're using. You really should know the HDCP requirements. There's a bunch of stuff that you should look at to really try and understand why is this failing, because there's a bunch of different things that could be happening. And if you just say, well, this device works and this one doesn't, you're just leaving yourself in a bunch of gray. And it's going to be really difficult to come to any type of conclusion with just that amount of information.
Got it, man. Let me hit a couple more of these super chats. Oh man, they don't stand out as well on this one.
I've marked them. They're in pinned comments. You just got to look for the super chat.
That's what I'm saying, but they're not like, there's not a, the other one was a little bit. There we go. It's all good. Batter, appreciate the $10 super chat. If you had the choice to build a new home, what size room do you go for your new cinema room? And where do you put the door when going with 11.1.6 layout? Great question, man. I can tell you what I wouldn't have, and that's a 13 by 9 with 10-foot ceilings. It's just, my room's just too small, man.
Your room's only 9 foot across?
No, 13 foot wide. I'm sorry, I probably said it too fast. 13 by 19, 10-foot ceilings. So yeah, 19 feet deep with my cabinet. I've got a 4-foot cabinet. So now my room's effectively 4 foot smaller than that. 19 minus 4, that's 15 foot of usable space front to back. for 2 rows of seating. So the back row is right up against the wall. That's not ideal. Your feet are touching the front row when you recline. That's not ideal. So I definitely would go deeper. Ideally, if I were building a new home, originally in the plans, I wanted a 15-foot wide by 25-foot deep, 10-foot ceilings. That would have given me a little bit more width, a little bit more depth, and would have been more ideal for my setup. Jonathan, how big is your room? I know
Mine's
you got a
eight.
funky room, but just the theater room part.
Right. The narrowest part is 18 foot wide and it's
Mhm.
24-foot deep, but it breaks out going this way.
Yeah. And you've got what's ceiling?
7.5
Okay.
foot tall
It's almost
ceilings.
8 foot.
Yeah, but you got a drop ceiling.
Yeah, well, I mean,
So
but the joists are not very high above that drop ceiling.
no.
It's kind of hard
So
to fit
let's just
tiles
say
in
8 foot
there.
though. But that gives you, and then Ryan, your current theater that's demolished, how big was it?
So it is 29 to 30 feet long, and this is unfinished down to the studs, and 15 and change wide with 8.5 foot,
Mm-hmm.
8 foot ceilings. I've got a box vault in the center that's just under 9 foot, but we filled all of that in.
Mm-hmm.
I would encourage the largest room possible,
Yeah.
as long as you can get the ceilings high.
Mm-hmm.
If you can't get the ceilings high, then I would start making some limitations. But with audio, I would say the bigger the room, almost the better, as long as you're able to treat it with big, tall ceilings.
The hard part, the bigger the room, though, the more
It gets
the
a lot
harder.
more expensive.
Yeah, it's gonna be
Absolutely.
harder to pressurize that room. You're gonna need bigger subs, more
Hmm.
subs. If you got more seats, you got more that you got to try to
Well,
make good
let's
for
put it
everybody.
this way for you guys. I'm going to ask you guys first because I'm already doing it. What would you change? Like if you could take your
Mhm.
room
Yeah,
and then change it
sure.
to add on to it, to change it to whatever you were doing, what would you do?
Mhm. Like I said, first thing I would make mine deeper.
Would
Width,
you
I
make it
would
taller?
no. I mean,
Okay.
I don't feel like I need taller ceilings. It might be beneficial to have 12-foot ceilings. I don't know, but I don't see that as any limitation in my room. But width wise, and speaking of the door, my
Hmm.
entrance is in the back right of the theater. So my riser is shifted over to the left, if that makes sense. Even though my seats are pretty centered in the room, it's just still, it's not ideal. I can only open up half of that door. There's 2 doors back there. So one of them hits a riser.
Would you
So
do any
again,
type of baffle wall or anything back there if you made it deeper? Or
a
would you have it all
baffle
visible
wall
space?
for the rear speakers, you're thinking?
Like for the subs and stuff to a low
Um,
frequency absorption or anything
I
like
don't
that?
know. Yeah, I'm not real sure if I would use a baffle wall back there. I'm not opposed to seeing speakers and subwoofers, and I don't necessarily have to have an unseen room. I kind of like seeing the speakers.
Hmm.
I've got all the grills off my speakers right now, even my Atmos, my surrounds. It's like I don't want to hide nothing. I just let them bare naked, baby. Lay them out there.
Jonathan?
Yeah, I mean, I would love to at some point. I don't know if life will allow, but build a home theater room with the home theater being the focus of the whole home, as far as like build the house around the home theater. So
Ooh.
three tiers for 3 rows of seats,
Mm,
14-foot ceilings. I am fully on board with the bigger the room, the better. Like there's not.
mm,
I mean, within reason, there's not really
yeah,
a maximum. I mean, who doesn't like going to like an IMAX or a commercial
yeah.
theater and being the only couple people in there? That's awesome, you know. So it's always like yes, if you're the only
Uh,
people in there. Um, I there's some great builds. Like one that comes to mind is DL Beck, and he did exactly that. He has it's called the Savoy, and it's on ABS form.
mhm,
And I've got it pulled up here now. He did it with just 2 rows. I think I'd make it 1 row bigger, and
mhm,
have this nice tiered system that's like a real theater like that. I think that'd be a blast. And Chirpy's doing something like that right now, which is going to come out
mhm.
great, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I would have this door come in from the back rear on the side would be
You
my
guys care
preference
too
in
much about people.
a way.
Why is that?
Multiple rows,
I mean,
accommodating for others. I'm
I,
like
I
one
want,
seat.
I want at least. I made this decision when we bought this home. I knew that if I couldn't fit 6 theater seats in the room, I wasn't going to do it. because I'm not building a home theater if I can't at least fit my family in there. So I at least care about my family. Now Jessica would love more seats. She's like, there's no room in here if we wanted to bring a bunch of people like the whole cheerleading squad in here and watch a movie, watch the Taylor Swift whatever concert. Yeah. It's like, nah, I don't need 20 seats, but I don't know if I'd even add more than 6 because most time it's me or me and the wife or me and a friend watching a movie. But we don't, very rarely do we have everybody in there.
Mm-hmm.
So, but it's cool when your wife now says, hey, can we watch Survivor in the theater room? I'm like, heck yeah, we can. Let's go.
That's nice.
I'll clean up some lighting and move some speakers and boxes and all this other stuff out of the way and make it happen. All right. Let me go back to pinned comments. But great question, man. I appreciate it. I'll check that one. All right, here we go. Chris, appreciate the $10 super chat. Another movie idea. So since it's 20 years old today, Lord of the Rings, Return of the King, or Tron Legacy being 13 years old today. Chris has got every movie on that has ever been made on a calendar.
He's got a birthday calendar.
And he'll tell you
movies.
to the day. I love it, Chris. I appreciate those attentions to details.
Man, we need a marathon.
So
The extended
think about that?
editions, it's over 10 hours.
well, I think he's just saying one of them, Return of the King or Tron.
No,
Legacy.
if you do one, you have to do all of them.
Yeah.
This is the way. Come on.
Well, y'all go ahead and have fun with that. I think John.
I don't even know that Youth Man watches movies. I don't think he does.
I proved that I did. Jessica and I watched
Survivor is not a movie.
No. I told you the other week. Oh, we watched The Sound of Silence. So that's the last movie that I watched. Now,
I don't know that you're telling the truth.
I'm dead serious. I can tell you at least a few parts of the movie that I remember. No, I mean, I actually watch movies, but I'm not the guy that has the ability to watch movies every single week.
Excuses.
Because you have to understand most of like right now, when we get done with this podcast, everybody's I say everybody, Jessica's long gone in bed. The girls are doing their thing. Some of them are, Rachel's probably off at her boyfriend's house. My son no longer lives here because he's married. Rebecca, she'll either be at a friend's house or asleep. And so it's like, I'm going to go play some zombies in the theater room. So in order to play, I've got to move my lights out of the way. They're ready to roll. As soon as I get my voice decent, I'm recording. My camera's in there, so I got to move my camera out of the way, so that's the way my theater is most of the time.
Aaron brings up a good point that you've said that you watched that movie and that movie was watched like a month ago.
But that's what I'm saying. I don't watch weekly movies. I'll tell you that. 100%.
So to Michael, it's like, I watched a movie 4 years ago, but that means that I watch movies, even though it was 1,500 days ago.
Yeah, I may watch one a month. So yeah, what? I mean, I don't. But think about this though. This is my job.
It's mine too.
It's different. You don't tear your stuff up. Like in my room right now, I can take my camera.
I don't even have a theater.
Maybe, yeah, but then you ain't watching that.
You don't tear your stuff apart. Excuse me.
Do you want me to take you guys in there and do a little live stream?
No, I know. I just like giving you crap.
No,
I just like giving you crap.
All right, chat. Let me know if you want me to take this in. All right, Nicholas.
How are you going to do that?
So, Nicholas, I'm just going to throw this out there. There's some really off-colored comments, man. Do me a favor, just lay off of them. So anyway, I want to keep this thing family friendly. What was the question?
How would you even do that?
I would just log into StreamYard, or not StreamYard, this Restream, and take my phone in there. I don't have to. I was just telling you, it's a train wreck in there right now.
Well, I know the train wreck. Look how clean Jonathan's is. I think we need to do some remodeling in Jonathan's.
I already did my remodeling. I'm done. This little table.
You moved a pole.
No, I moved.
You did a lot more than that.
Ceiling speakers.
Yeah. You did a lot more than that. All right, let's do the quick tour. Let's do it, Mike. You brought it up, and now everybody's going to be like, well, you brought it up. Why aren't we doing it?
No, I'm asking. Okay, they say give us a quick tour. You're going to see how crazy it is in there. I've got speakers that are unhooked right now because when I go gaming, I just put on my headset because I can't record anything right now anyway.
I got a
I've already-
chuckle of the little den behind the screen wall when you crawled in there the other night, showing me your area back there. Like,
Yeah.
That's where he goes and hides.
But it took me a while to.
Doesn't want his wife to find him, and he's just got like a little camping stove and stuff sitting back behind the screen.
For sure.
It is. It's like a little clubhouse back there.
Let's see.
Here's Michael, shadow puppets up on the screen.
Man, you ain't right. Shut up. Dude, you guys give me some. Here we go. So I got to go back to the email I sent Jonathan. Be the easiest way to do it. All right, go ahead and answer a couple questions while I'm doing this.
There's a question in
find
here
it.
that I thought was kind
Oh,
of
here we
interesting.
go.
Second back. Let me see if I can find it.
And I'll just mute this for now.
Bye,
Oh,
Michael.
Chris said he did the Lord of the Ring marathon, and it was a slog. A slog sounds like it was like some sort of death march or something. That's a great movie set. It
Yeah.
might be a slog, but a slog's a harsh word for that.
I mean, a slog could be if I was watching all 7 of the Tremors movies. That may be a slog. Or if I was having to watch Meg 1 and Meg 2 back to back. That may be a slog. But Lord of the Rings? Come on, man.
Yeah, that's a great.
Those are great.
That's kind of the top of cinema, isn't it? I mean, realistically, isn't that one of the best trilogies ever? I mean,
Oh, yeah. I mean, you look at 17 Grammys or something, or
Yeah.
Oscar. I don't even know. It's insane.
and it holds up super well. We watched it in the last year with my family, and the kids watched it for the first time and loved it.
The remastered versions, or no?
No, I don't think so. At Black Friday I bought all the remastered ones with Atmos and everything, so we're gonna give it another go.
This is one that I just saw. How small of a room would you not recommend dual 4000 ULFs?
It's not that you can't. You can always turn it down. We talked about this before. You can get any sub you want and turn it down, but you might be overkill. I mean, if you had a small room, maybe you could get the 2400s that he sells that have the same frequency tuning. You know, it's still tuned to 10 hertz and it's 118 instead of 218. So there's that kind
Yeah.
of discussion to be had.
I'd probably say, unless you're trying to use the subs for chiropractor school, I'd probably recommend if you're in a smaller room to do sealed. Wouldn't you?
Yeah, I had that conversation fairly recently. Yes, and you can stack sealed and keep adding more until you get the SPL you want. There's not any kind of point resonance limitations. Michael's back.
All
Hi,
right.
Michael. Let me turn
So
it
here's
here.
the. All right, so you guys can see that. So there's the theater room right there. As we enter, got the Arundel speakers right here. I think it's backwards on mine. I got the
Yeah,
super wide.
it's inverted, but it's fine.
Yeah, so you're seeing backwards of what I'm seeing. But so, and if I want to watch a movie, I got to remove that light. Got to remove my camera right there. This speaker's turned completely sideways right now, unhooked. This is a train wreck right here. We got the center channel on the on the floor. We got all kinds of.
Hold
What's
on.
that
They
little
want
light
me to.
down
They
there?
want me to make you. How do I do this?
What's that? Oh, make it big. All right, I'll back out.
I think it's this.
You may have to drag that
this.
to the top left one. Maybe.
Picture in a picture.
Nice.
Nope, that's that one.
No. So I do this.
There
and
you.
do
I think if you do
this.
that, then
There
all
we
right,
go.
Cool.
Got it.
All right, we'll try that again. So coming into the room,
Beep.
Arundel speakers right here in the way. So yeah.
So I think what happens is Michael just needs to go in there and pretend like he's on the set of making the movie.
Something.
That's what needs to happen.
But yeah, man, I just got stuff everywhere. So the reason why this speaker's moved is because recently I've been playing a lot more Modern Warfare 3 with some friends online. And in order to get to my cabinet and the PlayStation, I got to move the speaker out of the way. So it's like So normally, so ideally, here's the thing. One day I want a studio to where I don't have to move this. So the other
Mm-hmm.
day I had to get behind my cabinet. So this part right here, you can see this line. This whole section right here slides out about to right here. Then I have to lift this up. It's on gas shocks or gas struts. So that lifts up. But in order to do that, now I have to move that speaker, I have to move this speaker, and I have to move this one out of the way, bring it out this way so that it
Mm-hmm.
won't hit it when it swings up. Then I can pull that cabinet out, climb back in there like Jonathan was talking about, and get to the back of my equipment and everything. But, I've got a subwoofer over here, Arendal 1723. This one is technically kind of like right in the way. So this is what I was saying as far as my room. I just don't have a lot of real estate to work with. It's not a big room at all. Up top, you can see the JTR speakers there. 110. There we go, baby. Trying to block that for you. So there's another one. Got some acoustic panels up there, and then two more JTR speakers here, and then two in the back wall. So I've got the Rue Pro, one of the cables coming down there because I haven't climbed up in the attic yet. So this is the state of my theater room continually. So most of the time, in order to watch a movie, I've got to tear all this down, get it set back up, got to put the speaker back there, put that back there, connect it back. So it's just a process. So, but yeah, I'll see y'all back in the office.
You're not dedicated enough. Excuses.
What is that?
Such excuses.
So back on the HDMI conversation, the gentleman that was recommending the Audio Quest said, "Well, you guys just got to try it. You'll see the difference
I've done it.
in a post." And I was just thinking, well, Ryan's tried cables and owns cables that cost many, many, many hundreds, if not thousands of dollars, low $1,000 count probably. And it's not like he hasn't, and we haven't. I've got one of those cables that I loaned from him or borrowed from him right now. So there's just not a difference. If they work, they work. They just might not work. We beat that horse dead, right? All right, we'll move on.
All right. So now you've seen the mess. Normally, see, I never show that stuff online because it's weird. It's you try to present well, and if you really think
Mhm.
about it, most people on social media they do. On Instagram, you only see their cool vacations. You only see their nice car or whatever. And they're just kind of trying to show you their best. Very few people will show you, like, let's just say a woman. They won't show you when they first wake up, their hair is a train wreck and they haven't put on any makeup. They're not going to show you that picture. They're going to show you that, that they took 30 selfies before they got the right one with the right lighting and the right pose and the right angle for the bags under their eyes or whatever. And the same thing even with content creators that are in our space. I mean,
I
most
really
of the
hope
time,
Michael's wife is not watching this.
nah, she doesn't. But I'm not talking about her. I'm talking about like people in general. We tend to only show our best, and so most time, what you see on camera isn't what's happening in the room. I just moved it, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So usually there's stuff in the back seats, and so if I'm filming a video, I just move it to the front, and then when I'm done, I put it right back, So but y'all have made some great comments as far as I mean, ideally, and that's the goal. That's one of my big goals, is to have either a second theater room or to have a almost like a studio, whether it may be a part of my house, maybe like a garage or I don't know what you would call it, but something separate from the house to where I could go over there and I could work and I could film and I could review stuff. But then I could come into my house and I could watch TV or I could watch a movie or I could play video games and not have to worry about disconnecting and unhooking and changing back. And I even made a video on that on my channel. So, but yeah, man, that's it. It's
Another thing you could have learned if you were watching those comments is you got a lot of Mech Warrior 3, or what is it? Not
Modern
Mech
Warrior
Modern
3.
Warfare.
Warfare
Modern
3.
Warfare 3. People want to play
Modern
with you.
Warfare.
You got
Okay,
a, you got
yeah.
a group.
Yeah, I see
That
that.
could be
Oh,
kinda
there you go.
fun.
Paul said, "I'll play with you." All right, I'll have to figure
MechWarrior
that out.
3. I'm
But yeah,
about
we've
a
been me
decade
and a
old,
couple
aren't
guys.
I?
What's that?
That's about a decade old, if not more. MechWarrior
What,
3. How old is
Oh,
MechWarrior 3? That's a really old one.
dude? Yeah, Mech Warriors, like back in the day. I used to like that game. That was like them little battle
Yes,
dudes. Yeah,
I
dude.
enjoyed those too.
Modern Warfare 3 is Call of Duty, so it's really good. I love playing zombies. So
I had the Call of Duty today.
yeah, there you go. You're bad. Need to build Michael a YouTube shed. Yeah, for sure. All right, cool, man. No, I mean, here's the thing though. I love what I do, Nicholas. I do. I really love what I do. I love being able to make video content for you guys. I love being able to educate. I love being able to play with stuff that you know, I wouldn't normally buy. I mean, sometimes a company will send me something for 3 months and I just get to play with it. Dude, that's awesome to me, be able to try something out, send it back, you know, that's awesome. So, but that's fun to me. But that's what I do full time now.
Have we gotten through all these super chats yet?
No,
No,
we
man,
said they
no.
said we missed one.
All right, and we still have some. I know. Here's hang on, let me look through. Yeah, I really wish they would push the super chats up. But
Yeah.
I'm searching through the starred. I did go back and okay, so that's Chris's. I got
And guys,
that
we
one.
will get to the questions. No
Oh
need
yeah,
to ask them multiple times.
yeah. See, it's still
There's
here.
just a lot.
Yeah. So golf addict, appreciate the 5 Canadian. We did that one.
Yes.
Okay. Somehow that ended up. Oh no, here's another one. Bobby Digital, appreciate the $5 super chat. Do you guys think Marantz will ever get direct art? I hear direct art is timed exclusive to Storm Audio, which is, I don't think it's 2 years. It was this past October. It's
I think
opened up
so.
now,
Yeah,
right?
it has.
Yeah, so it should be opened up to any company now. But yeah, that time was October of this year, so that's already passed. So any company that wants to implement that, they can. They just have to be willing, number one, to implement that into their products.
Direct
They have
does
to
not do
all,
that for you.
yeah, and they also have to pay the licensing fee for art. So they have to be willing to do that. So it's really just going to be up to them to whether or not they feel that it's a benefit, if it's a marketable, and if they have like a big enough target audience, I guess. Would that be fair to make that assessment? They got to make sure that it's
Yes,
profitable
I
for them.
think
They're not
so.
going to dump a ton of money into this thing if they go, okay, there's 12 people out there of our customers that might be interested in this kind of thing.
Be interesting to see what they do.
Yeah. So we don't know. We're guessing. They haven't said anything as far as they're wanting to implement that. So
There's some
There
hardware
was
limitations too if they have enough taps and
yeah,
some other
see.
things and filters.
there
And
was a leak on AVS forum
All right, spill the tea,
people
Jonathan.
found that said that there was an EU website for Denon and Marantz that came
Okay.
out and said the flagship products were going to have art
Okay.
in 2024. And then
Okay.
they took it back down again, but some people were talking about it. Hey, we saw this. It was
Mm.
here.
how do people find this stuff?
Dude, they're searching. There's some hackers out there, man. They go on the dark web, I think they call it, and they're like crawling through stuff that doesn't exist, and they're
For
going in the
Dirac?
Yeah, I
You
don't
better
know.
stay in the YouTube hobby,
I'm
Michael.
making up. It sounded legit, didn't it? Y'all were like, really? Dude, that's awesome.
Michael needs to get some sleep.
Nah, I'm good, man. The sleep is
Anonymous coming
I'm-
for Dirac code.
and I don't know how to say your name, Mr. Rodriguez. Is it Tito or Tito?
Tito, I think.
Tito.
Pacific Rim did suck.
No!
I stick by.
did?
I stand by my assessment.
What was the
All right.
question?
Jonathan's muted now. He's not
Oh,
allowed to
okay. How was it around?
talk.
Abino, appreciate the $5.
You're unmuted, Jonathan.
Clips RP, I'm sorry, the Clips 8000 FS Mark IIs, 504C Mark II, RP 280F, all connected Emotiva XPA5 Generation 2. Any risk of damaging speakers with too much power if I cranked goosed up. Okay. If you crank it wide open, yes, you can damage your speakers. Here's what I tell people. I'd rather have too much power than not enough power. If you have too much power, you don't have to worry about clipping. You don't have to worry about distortion as much. And there's this beautiful thing. It's called a volume knob. And there's another beautiful thing. It's called your ears. And turn it up, good volume. If everything sounds clean and it's doing good, it's fine. If you start hearing any mechanical funky sounds, you need to back it down, because you're going to damage your speaker. If you start smelling anything a little funky, a little burning, maybe a voice coil. Um, you're going too hard on your subwoofer or whatever. So again, just use some common sense. So yes, you can damage your speakers if you cranked it wide open. But as far as is that a bad thing to have, the XPA Gen 2, that's a great amplifier. It's 200 watts, I believe.
I don't think you can damage the clips on 200 watts, can you?
But okay, so think about this. If he turns his AVR up wide open, is he introducing massive distortion at that point?
But distortion's not going to hurt the speakers.
But clipping might.
Distortion is the one of the single most things that kills speakers. When you feed it like garbage and it starts like completely breaking up, that'll destroy a speaker quicker than having too much power. I mean, as far as like having too much power. Now, correct me if I'm wrong.
I think a clip signal is kind of really destructive to speakers.
That's horrible too.
Because
Yeah.
you're sending a square wave, which ends up being
Correct.
like a short to the
That's
speaker,
horrible.
and it's hard on it.
But that's
Yeah,
only if you run out of voltage.
I'm not familiar with those speakers or what their power handling is, or nor the XPA 5 Gen sub. If you are amp, if you're saying it's 200 watts,
Yeah, let me look.
But-
It's
but-
either yeah.
consider that the little tweeters that come in a lot of speakers are rated for somewhere really low, like 25 or 50 watts. The little 1-inch compression driver type things, they're just
Mhm.
not rated for very much.
So this is
So-
not your typical dome tweeter.
Depending on what you're sending,
Yeah. So let me
what
look here.
frequencies and all that kind of stuff. You could overheat things, but
So Emotiva, XPA. Really, I don't need your ad, Emotiva. Appreciate it. Probably easier to search.
I'll give you this little note while Michael's looking that up. A pro audio company like JBL, with their pro audio speakers, will rate a pro audio speaker for how much time it can run at different wattages. So, for instance, my CBT 70 J1s are rated for up to 2,000 watts, but they're only rated for 500 watts for 2 hours. So, if you're going to run it for like there's durations of how long you can run it because heat builds up. So I can't run it for 2,000 watts indefinitely. You can only run it for 500 watts at 2 hours. And if you want to run it all day, I think it steps down to like 300 watts. Like it will never have any damage at 300 watts type thing, even though it's rated for 2,000. So scale that down from a pro audio standpoint to your clips or to your other things. It's the same sort of things. Your peak's going to be much higher, what it can handle impulse versus what it can handle for a shorter time, an hour or two, versus what it can handle indefinitely, like play forever.
That
Yeah.
amp is 300 watts, 8 ohms.
Yeah. So, and here's where I was getting at. So the generation 1 was 200 watts a channel. Generation 2, they bumped it up to 300 watts a channel. So you got a lot of power. But remember, just to gain 3 decibels in volume, you got to double the wattage. So let's say if your amp was only 150 watts a channel, it would just be 3 decibels lower volume than that XPA2. So kind of think of that. Like sometimes we think, man, I'm going from 150 to 200
Right.
or
It's not
100
very
to
much.
300. What's that?
You're right. It's not very much.
Yeah.
So power handling for these is 150 watts continuous or a maximum of 600 watts.
Oh, there you go.
You're not going to hurt them.
Well, you just said it would, really. If it's doing 300 watts and it only handles 150 continuous,
If he leaves them on for several hours,
Yeah.
I don't think he's going to hurt them just using them.
Yeah, you're right. In normal use cases, no. Could
No.
you damage them? I think that's kind of
Sure.
the thing. Could you damage them? Potentially.
I mean,
like I
that's
said,
like
listen
saying
to use your
that's
ears.
like sending a continuous sine wave signal to a subwoofer.
Mhm.
I mean, there's things you shouldn't do, but running really loud on those speakers, watching a movie, you're going to be fine.
So put it this way, I've reviewed and owned over 50 pair of clip speakers over the years. Actually, I've owned over 50 pair. I've reviewed even more than that. So let's just say 60, 70 plus clip speakers. Every single time, for the most part, I've always been running somewhere between the 200 to 220 watt per channel to each one of those clip speakers. And I mean, I'm not going crazy, stupid, wide open volume, but I don't mind taking them to reference. And I've never once had one of those speakers, any of them, even some that
Right.
were 40 years old. Not one of them has said that was too much for me.
You'll be fine.
So again, use common sense. Don't go stupid with it. and if you hear anything kind of funky, back off the gas on those. But they're
Push the
90.
gas down harder.
Yeah, no, these are 98 dB sensitive with 1 watt.
98.
Yeah, so they're super efficient. Now, all right, some people say, well, clips overinflates there. Okay, let's back it down to 96.
I think
That's still
this is
stupid
not
loud.
limited to Klipsch though. Most speaker companies are guilty
Yeah.
of this. So
But a lot
let's
of
not
people will
just
tell
throw
you
it
that.
on Klipsch.
Oh, they do. They'll crap on them. But anyway,
It's not just
even
Klipsch.
if they're not as efficient, I promise you, I can. Every speaker I've ever reviewed, I always have to level match when I'm comparing, let's say, an SVS with a Klipsch, because I have to turn the volume up quite a bit more when I'm, to get at the same level. So yeah, but yeah, so you're going to be fine. Like I said, just take it easy. The good thing about having that much power doesn't mean that you go that much louder. It just means that you don't have to worry about your amp sweating. And I kind of look at an amplifier as almost like let's say a bodybuilder. Let's say you've got a guy that's, just a scrawny dude and he's trying to bench press up, I don't know, 100 pounds. To him, that might be his body weight. And he's like, he can't even do it. But then you get somebody that's a bodybuilder, that's like nothing. That's lightweight. They're not even sweating. The other guy's maxing out one time. It's everything he's got. This other guy, big bodybuilder, he's just cranking it out. Like, all right, this is what else you got? That's kind of the same thing. When you've got more horsepower, whether it's in a vehicle, in a boat, in whatever, there's just more horsepower behind it. And so it doesn't have to work as hard. It should last longer as a result because it's not being driven as hard. So, but yeah, short answer. That was a long answer. You'll be all right. Hi, Finest. Somebody read this. My voice is getting shot.
It says we're getting a pool. Construction is underway. Looking to design a first-class outdoor system. $10,000 to $15,000 budget, 4 subs, 8 to 10 speakers, and a TV under the whatever that is. What would you do? Come swim.
A
I don't know.
cupola. I think that's one of is that the ones that have they're like, what do you call
I have
that?
no idea. I've never even heard of that
It's
word.
the wooden beams. They do it a
Cupola.
lot in Florida. I'm gonna look it up. Cupola. Anyway, it's something kind of fancy outside.
That comes up with some guy's picture. Nonstop.
Cupola. I don't think it's a cupola. Oh man, let us know in the chat what you call that. To me, it's just like wooden, and then up at the top. And I always told my wife, I'm like, that's pointless.
No, it's not.
shade. I
There is
know,
shade.
to me, I know, but I'm just thinking, dude, if it rains, you're getting wet. If the sun is shining, you're still getting hit. Let me know in the chat. What is that thing? It's not I don't think it's a cupola.
You got a lot of options on there in regards to your actual question.
But anyway.
With outdoor speakers, JBL makes quite a few of their speakers that are waterproof, like IP rated. In fact, these CBT 70J1s with their grill on are outdoor rated.
Maybe it's just
4
spelled-
subs. I'm not so sure about that. I mean, maybe
Cupola.
they sell that too, but I don't know that I've run
No,
across
that's the
that.
steeple.
You're going to be hard pressed to find quality subs for low amounts of money for
Pergola.
outdoor utilization. That's going to be tough.
Okay.
8 to 10 speakers. I mean, the type of stuff you're really more talking about here is like those little, more traditional would be like those little speakers that are in rocks, like fake rocks and stuff.
Maybe that's what he's talking about. A pergola. Something like that.
Pergola, yes.
That's what I was talking about. Like, I mean, they look cool, but I'm thinking maybe something like that is what he's talking
I mean,
about.
is he looking for like an outdoor surround sound system, or is he just looking for ambient stuff outside?
Hi, Finest, let us know. I'm guessing you're just looking for some, like,
Ambient stuff
yeah,
outside?
yeah, it's like
There's
two-channel
plenty of
stuff.
options for that.
I mean, there's some guys that run Sonos out there. I have OSD. They're not like super fancy. I'll be honest. They're extremely budget friendly.
Well,
Like
getting
crazy
super
budget friendly.
fancy outside gets expensive very, very
Yeah,
quickly.
yeah. I mean, there's what's that one company? They sound phenomenal, but holy cow, they're 10,000 a pair.
Oh, they get way more than
or
that.
maybe it's 10,000 each.
They get
it's
way more than that.
I wonder if it wouldn't be a decent object. I mean, he's got a big budget, so that may not be that big of a problem. But you could get marine speakers, like what they have for like outdoor activity boats, pleasure boats, ski boats, stuff like that.
Coastal Source. That's it. Yep.
Stuff like that would be definitely outdoor rated,
Yeah.
and they have all kinds of things in the marine audio field.
Yeah. I find is if you're looking for like, in my opinion, like a phenomenal company, Tar Hoya
Coastal
mentioned it. Coastal Source. I've heard them at a couple of trade shows. Dude, they're amazing. And
They
some
are.
of them have like 15-inch subwoofers in them, like built into the tower.
But it's
Yeah, it's pricey. Like I said,
just
you're
be
gonna spend.
prepared.
Yeah, you're gonna spend like 10 grand. I think it's a piece.
It depends on the speaker, but they
Yeah,
can
there's
get
different
really
sizes.
expensive.
Yeah, yeah. That's like their flagship. So, but maybe check them out. Just touch base with them. Um, but man, yeah, I mean, oh, and he's talking 4 subs too. And I agree. I like having subwoofers outside because that's you're not going to pressurize anything. You just want to fill in that bottom end. Um, man,
Okay.
who else? Any other companies y'all can think of?
There's a lot of them actually.
I haven't had a whole lot of experience with outdoor stuff.
A lot of
So,
companies make outdoor speakers, but they're going to be small and
yeah.
in-ground subs and stuff like that. So there's a lot of options. It's really going to come down to use case.
Mercy me, they cannot hear. All right, I'm gonna bump Jonathan back up. Let us know if Jonathan's not loud enough. It's like we're always adjusting. We're still figuring out this new software. Maybe it's doing something funky. All right, back to the chat. Bible time with Ivan. Appreciate the $5 super chat. If you're still here, I know he just wanted to pop in, say hi, and say thanks. Love you, man. Appreciate you.
Is that our local Ivan here in Kansas City?
I don't know.
Don't know. I don't think so. We already answered this one.
All right. I just happened to click it. Here we go. Bander, $10 super chat. Appreciate it, brother. If you have the choice to build a new home, we did that one.
We did that
All
one.
right. Why do these either I'm not unstarring them or they're somehow coming in twice?
That is our Ivan.
Oh, it is.
Awesome.
Good to see you, man.
Hello, Ivan.
Oh, you still in the chat? You rock, dude. I thought you were hopping in and maybe had to go. Take
Ivan's
care of
room
business.
is available for M-Wave this year.
Yeah, dude. Ivan was such a blessing even last year. So I'm at I think like Jonathan's house and I get a text and it's a video and I'm going, this is awesome. Like, what is up? And so he starts sending me these videos. I'm like, dude, can I like share these on my channel? These are great. It was just like behind the scenes stuff, like day before on Thursday before the show started. He's like, of course you can share those. I'm like, dude, that's phenomenal, man. So he was such a blessing, man. He was going around all the rooms, just kind of giving y'all back, like behind the scenes. So those are on my channel. So, and I even said he just started a new channel. So I think I can click on here, go to channel. Dude, all right, awesome, man. You just got a new subscriber. Boom. I'll drop it. All right, here we go. Ivan. I'll drop it in the chat. I'll check it out after the stream. All right, man. But yeah, he was such a blessing. I appreciate you, man. Let's see. Yeah, this is so weird, man, because like we already did his. Okay, here's a new one. So Kenny Neck, wow. Kenny Rec, appreciate the $10 super chat. I have a 14 by 20 by 10 room, 7.1.4 Kef up front, center, rears, Atmos sides. It's got 2 SVS PB3000 in front. Wants to add 2 more subs to the rear. Should I use the same subs or go bigger or add sealed? I'm gonna let you guys take this one. Let my voice rest.
Jonathan, you want to do it or you want me to?
Don't be shy, fellas.
I'm still trying to read through it and digest it.
Okay.
So the biggest thing, he's got 2 SVS
I got it.
PBs. So those are ported
Mm-hmm.
subs.
I would.
Should he add 2 more? He wants to add 2 more in the back. Should he add the same ones? Keep it consistent? Should he go with some bigger subs in the back? Or should he even go sealed?
If he goes sealed, he has to replace. He should replace all of them. You don't want to use those together. You can, but
you've done that, and it's pain.
It took a long time for me to get that right, and there's phasing problems, and it still wasn't ideal.
Yep,
My recommendation, if you've got the budget to go bigger, is go bigger. 14 by 20 is not a small room. I think you could have a decent experience going with 4 PB3000s, but nobody ever complained by having subwoofers that were too big. So
Yeah,
I would
I agree.
suggest you go as big as you can go.
Yeah.
You won't regret it.
Yep. I've gone from 10-inch to 15 to dual 15s to 415s to 418s, and I've never went the opposite direction.
Nope.
So I'm with Ryan. If you can do some bigger ones back there, go for it, man. That's not gonna be a problem. But I wouldn't mix them either. So
Nope.
I think one thing to add is that going from 2 to 4 subs is not really gonna do that much more
Mhm.
output when they're not
yeah.
co-located like that. You're gonna get about an extra 3 dB overall, which isn't that
Overall,
much.
really?
Yeah, because you're doubling subs and they're not co-located. So
Uh,
every doubling,
yeah. See, I'm thinking the
if
doubling of
if
there's
they're
another woofer.
co-located, if they're co-located with
Mhm.
the equal amount of amps on each one, you get 6 dB per doubling. But if
Yeah.
they're not co-located, each doubling gets you 3
Yeah.
dB. So
Sure.
if you're happy with your volume on your PB3000, like this is as loud as I need, I don't want any more. I just want more uniformity of sound, more every seating position to have a little bit more uniformity and the
Mhm.
same bass response, then that's a good track. If you're hoping to like really open it up and have a lot more volume, um, probably
Put some
time to
18s
move
in
on
there,
to a different
baby.
sub. Hmm.
Go big or go home, or go
50.
big in your own home. Like
Ryan
that.
said 50.
See?
PB 3000 to a 50-inch subwoofer has no one ever done in the entire history of mankind.
Yeah, exactly.
Probably
All right,
not.
I'm just gonna scroll through this again. We got new software here, so I want to make sure I did not miss any of your super
Somebody
chat.
did bring up he could plug the PB3000s and go sealed.
True, that is true. That is an option. Let me scroll back through here. All right, I think we're caught up with all the super chats.
Okay,
Correct?
we're gonna hit them
Well, you
as
hit
they
them
come up.
up. Hey,
Yep,
hang on.
I got it. I'm
Oh,
watching.
I got another one.
Oh my gosh.
Zim, appreciate $7 Canadian. He says, "Hey, I'm using Martin Logan F200s. Love those speakers. PB4000 for electronic music, but have a few nasty bass nulls in my room. What can I do to eliminate the bass nulls?" So he has one subwoofer. He's getting this dip, lack of bass in certain frequencies. What's his options there, fellas?
So somebody here was having no problems.
Yeah, Michael, you've gone through this recently.
Yeah. And I was even using two subwoofers, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
still getting some funky dips. So part of the issue is, all right, well, not part of the issue. There's a couple ways. Number one, you can try moving your seats forward and backwards.
Mm-hmm.
That could get you in or out of a null that you might be sitting in, like or not a null. What do you call it? A room mode. Is that correct,
Mode is a
John?
boost and null is a drop.
Okay.
So either
Mm-hmm.
one.
Oh,
It
I
could be
see what
either
you're
one.
saying.
Yeah.
So you might be sitting in a bad spot, basically.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't realize mode was a boost. I thought
Mm-hmm.
that was, they call them room modes.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Another thing that you can do is sometimes when well, not even sometimes, if you have more than one subwoofer and they're not co-located, they're not stacked in the same location, and you move them around the room, you can figure out a better option sometimes. And what Jonathan was showing me is if one has, let's say, for instance, a mode, so a boost, let's say in the 50 hertz range, and then this other subwoofer, you measure it by itself, like something like RAW, OmniMic, or whatever, and maybe it has a null at 50 hertz. That's actually not a bad thing because they're both going to kind of cancel each other out. Is that correct, Jonathan?
That's right.
So
There,
it'll help flatten that out.
yeah, I mean, and the context of this was, hey, this looks like a nasty graph because I got this big null here, and this looks like a nasty graph, but they weren't in the same place, and so it's like, well, how do they do together? And then you ran the graph together, and they sort of play nicely together
Yeah.
at that point. They cover up each other's deficiencies,
Yeah.
which is the whole idea of getting quantity of subwoofers.
Yeah.
Now, one thing to add to that, and you're right, Michael, everything you said is correct. When you move those subwoofers around to try, you can't boost out of a null. You either move your seats or you move the subs. Those are your two options.
Yeah.
Um, when you move your subs, you need to rerun your auto EQ because the phase delays were going to change when you move your subs, and that's not. You have to have a measurement mic to figure it out yourself if you want to try to figure out the impulse response and do the phase setting yourself. That's not something you can do by ear. You would need to have equipment for that. Alternatively, you can just run your auto EQ again at the new position. So you move your subs and see where you're at there. run your audio EQ each time you move your subs to kind of get your placement.
So we're going to begin with the regular ones. Just let me know in the chat, guys, if I did miss your super chat. I'm pretty sure I've got all of them. I did not. There's another one up here. Y'all didn't star. I say y'all. So I threw them under the bus. Brad, appreciate the $10 super chat. While running direct, main volume's at 50 dB. Mic is at 1%, but volume coming out is so loud, I'm afraid the speaker's going to blow. What am I doing wrong? All the Emotiva speakers, 6.3.4, two basics, 7 channel, and a 2 channel XMC2. I've heard that before, that Dirac was having some issues, but I think that was a firmware issue. Is that correct? Where when they ran it, basically, like, I mean, it was just,
I
it
don't
was
know.
so loud. Like people were going, I think I might just have blew a tweeter because
Don't
this
know.
thing came in like hot as crazy.
I don't know either.
I've
I
heard
have
that,
very limited
Brad.
experience with
I just
direct
don't
setup.
know the answer to it. Hope, I mean, because this was probably at least 6 months ago, if not longer. Chat, let me know if anybody knows the answer to this. Did Dirac come up with a firmware fix on that? Um, but I heard some people that I was looking at the chat over here. I heard there were definitely some people that experienced that, and they were same as you. They were like, "Oh my goodness, man! I hope I didn't just blow my speakers."
He said it was doing that tone at 103 dB,
Yeah,
0.6, 103.6.
yeah, that's crazy, man. That's loud.
Check if there's another Dirac version.
Yeah, so hopefully with the firmware version, um, they've got that fixed.
There was a question a little bit back I want to revert back to, and I don't
Yeah,
have the
go ahead.
ability to star or anything, so you'll have to see if you can find it. But it was talking about, do you think 412s would be enough in X size room?
Okay, I didn't see that one.
That all is going to come down to how much bass you want, and for me the answer would be no. And I don't know that, I suspect it might be the same for the other guys in this chat here with us, but it's not going to be that answer for everyone. There was a guy in Kansas City here who had a acoustically designed room. It was done by a professional. It was a very nice room. It sounded great at high-end Procella speakers, and he had four 12-inch, maybe they even 10. I'm trying to remember. It's Mark B1234 type name on
Mhm.
the forum, but they were 410 or 412 subwoofers, one in each corner. And the acoustic designer, said that should be sufficient. And
Mhm.
Mark believed it was sufficient for what he was after too, but it wouldn't be my preference. I would like to have more than that. So it's going to depend on what your expectation or need is for that base level. Four subs is a great idea because it's just like we talked about on the previous comment. You're
Mhm.
getting a more uniform response throughout all the seats and through the entire home theater area by doing corner loaded or mid wall loaded. Um, but it's but output is subjective. How much do you really want? How much do you need? Like you might even struggle to hit reference with four 12-inch or 10-inch subs. And then most of us in this group like to run our subs a little hot. I think Michael says 3 to 6, and Ryan and I are
I'm at
higher than
five to
that.
six. Yeah.
Yeah,
Might struggle to hit reference with those
I'm 9 to
subs.
12 dB hot.
I think you're probably going to struggle to hit reference. I mean, 115 dB.
Small room, and if you're doing like 20 hertz and above and the corner loaded, you might get there with
Maybe
four.
on a quality subs.
Yeah, that's what we're talking about, I think. But I don't want just reference. I feel like reference flat is anemic to me. Like the
Oh,
bass is not
100%.
exciting, and you can get so much more excitement for your home theater by boosting that bass level.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I don't like it flat. Like Odyssey. Well, I think that's one of the things that I didn't like. The first time I reviewed a product that had Arc. So
mhm.
Arc, I think they like a flatter response. And a lot of people say, hey, like if you go with what they have default, you're not going to be impressed. And it literally, this was my term. I said it literally sucked the life out of the bass, the bottom
Mhm.
end in my system. And I'm
Mhm.
not, I could never have that. Now, granted, can you do some things to fix that? Maybe. But I was like, man, I don't like that at all. I want to be able to feel it. And I didn't feel it anymore. And I went, what happened? Where'd my bass go? I don't want to just hear it. I want to feel it. I want it to be tactile. So, all right, let's see if we can crank through these. Eric says, my amp runs hot. Oh, man, that's kind of weird because it puts
That's
it's
okay.
messy. No,
95.
I'm saying like I can't see some. All right. It's basically they put an overlay over the thing, so it's hard. Anyway, my amp runs at about, I'm assuming 95 to 98 degrees. Is that too hot or too cold?
No.
Oh yeah, 98, 95. And if you're like at 155 and you can cook
No.
a steak on it, yeah, it's
That's
getting hot.
fine for electronics. You're not hurting anything.
Right.
Most electronics get crazy hot, to be
I
honest
mean,
with you.
you're thermal thresholding in a lot of electronics at like 95C.
I won't mention the name, but there's a certain premium high end top of the shelf type brand, an
Mhm.
amplifier that I touched the chassis and it burnt
Mhm.
me. Like not
Onkyo,
95 or
I'll say the
98.
brand. Onkyo did back in the day when I had one, and it was mine. I bought it.
Uh,
And everybody's like, "Hey, did your Onkyo get hot?" I went, "Heck yeah, it gets hot." And the term back then, everybody was saying it's so hot you can fry an egg on it,
mhm.
and you might could. I mean, like I literally touched it and went, "Oh, that joker's it's pretty hot," but it never got unstable. It never shut
Right.
down on me because of it. So I think they know it going into it. But if you can keep it cool, I would. I'd get one like the AC Infinity fans. It'll suck the hot air from it.
It
But
doesn't take very much to take that hot air out of that rack.
yeah, you can
I
take
was
a
just talking to
CPU
a friend about
fan,
that. Exactly. A little 80 millimeter, 120 millimeter fan does a
$10.
number on just getting
Mhm.
that heat out of there.
Yep. Just got to have some air movement. A little bit of air movement's enough to take out a lot of heat, even from passive chassis, passively cooled equipment.
Okay, I need to mention that to them because that's kind of on the back end. That makes it hard to read your comments. It just like covers. Oh, what happened?
Hmm?
Mine said, "Oops, something went wrong." I was resizing the browser. And it said,
Oh.
"Oops, something went wrong. Try reloading the page." All right, I'm gonna
You're still
reload, but it
here.
may kick me off.
Still here.
I can't see any of the chat. It's gone. So
Oh,
maybe I got to
well then
reload.
try and reload.
I don't think it'll mess up anything. I'm gonna reload my browser.
No, you'll just leave. Jonathan, is your wife less than impressed with how
Oh,
much
boy.
time you spend on the forums and stuff? Your response time feels like you never get off.
True. And let's go forward because she listens to this podcast. True. True. And let's move on.
Oh.
All right.
Oh no. I didn't mean to do that. There we go. All right, let's keep going.
Okay,
Michael's
so
back.
I have no more. It's weird. I have no more comments, and I can see the pinned ones though. That's good. All right, here we go. Running direct on my 3800H. Just
Now
the
he's real
base.
quiet again. Wait a minute, Michael. You're super quiet.
There.
I didn't change it, and I'm wide open.
You're
Is that
better
better?
now.
I
Yeah, that's
raised him.
It may have dropped me down. Cool. Thanks, Ryan. Go back to the chat. Running direct on my 3800, just the base upgrade, but all speakers are getting set with plus trims. Any clue what I'm doing wrong? My first question is, what speakers are you running? If they're inefficient speakers, if you got like 80 dB, 89 dB, it's going to probably have to push them in the plus to get it to reference level.
And is it a fixed gain amplifier?
Mhm.
Because if it's something that's got attenuator knobs, you can turn those attenuator knobs up. If it's fixed,
Not on an AVR though.
He's running a 3800H.
3800 AVR.
He could be running
And
pre-outs though. No, he could be running pre-outs.
but
That's
he would
how
have
I
said
assume.
that. I mean, think about it. If you had an amplifier external, and most external amplifiers don't have attenuation. You know, you guys, some of y'all are running
The pro amps do.
Yeah, those are different, but yeah, I don't think you're doing anything wrong. It's just literally trying to get you to reference. So I just like to keep my gains in at 0 or below, but I've always owned efficient speakers. My JTRs are super efficient. They're above what 100 dB. Clips La Scalas were above 100 dB.
The
They were
110, the 10s aren't above 100.
Yeah, but I'm talking about like even just your front three. I mean, like
Oh.
I was at negative 12 on my gain, you know, so never had to worry about that. Let's see, keep going. What would be your recommendation for room treatments and dedicated theater? Is there a best practice or online tool to calculate what type, where to place them? That's a long rabbit hole, man.
I apply to the science of put stuff in there and see what works. Because I mean, sometimes the calculators and stuff can be helpful, but they're always gonna have issues.
Yeah, at least search up first reflection point and just do some research on that. It's real easy. Also search for um, acoustic panel mirror trick or something like that. So that's a real easy way to figure out where to place those first reflection points. Beyond that, I did it all aesthetically. I'm like, okay, all right, I'm gonna space that out. I can fit about 3 of them on this wall, put about 4 on this wall. So I'm not the acoustician.
Jonathan.
I'm a trial and error type guy.
Yeah.
There is science behind it where you can calculate it. Tools. I
100%.
don't have
Yeah.
that knowledge or those tools.
Well, and a
Yeah.
lot of
So mine
times
has
when
been
you
trial
use
and
the
error.
tools, they don't work very well because it's hard to accommodate for everything that's in your room. I mean, it's
Mm.
a box, sure, but a box with all of these huge chairs and big human meat sacks, it becomes problematic. So I would just get some, like if you got old mattresses or you got old blankets and stuff, find
Mhm.
your first reflection points, try and find your problems and put
Yeah.
stuff there. See
Mm.
if it helps. And then take notes where you put stuff and then put stuff other places and see what works for you. I mean,
Mhm.
that's the crude way to do it. And it's really effective. It takes some time, but
Mhm.
it's very effective. Or build some acoustic panels, some big ones, and just put
Yeah.
them different places. See what works.
Joe, appreciate the $10 super chat. Is there any top quality streamer that will frame rate match and not be the ecosystem? Apple TV blocks purchases outside their own ecosystem. What would y'all recommend? Like,
For streamers,
I think he's saying like
Roku.
a streaming platform, like a hub for Netflix, Hulu, Disney Plus. But
Wouldn't Roku? Does Roku not do frame rate matching? I'd be surprised if they don't. They're little Roku streamers. They're ecosystem agnostic. They let you do anything with Roku. $50 for a Roku
I'd
4K
say
stick.
NVIDIA Shield. It'll frame rate match. You can jailbreak all kinds of stuff because it's Android.
mm,
Sideload things. I mean,
Is there still no new one coming out? That thing's 2017 at this point.
no, it's
Yeah.
2019.
that's still old, dude.
Second gen.
That's
4 years.
6 years
Gosh,
old.
4 years ago.
Yeah, yeah, we're going into the 5th.
But what do you need? I mean, what do you
I'm
need
just
from that
saying,
thing?
man. I'm just saying. I'm with Jonathan,
120
man.
hertz I need is one thing.
For content? For what?
Yeah, what are you watching, Jonathan?
Well, it's a gaming box primarily. That's the
Okay,
purpose of it.
yes, I
And
get
it doesn't
that.
do 120 hertz, which that's a
It's a
little odd.
gaming box. How do you game on?
You can
Oh,
That's
because you can
that's
play
its primary
games.
purpose. This little home theater duty is like
Yeah.
a takeover thing. That
Interesting. I didn't know that. Ah.
Whew.
Yeah, Miles says my Fire Stick 4K Max will do frag matching. Cool. Did it.
Yeah, but Fire Stick's not terribly agnostic. Y- Roku is agnostic. Shield is probably agnostic. Apple and Amazon, they want you in their ecosystem.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. But I mean, there's a reason for that, you know.
Well, all right. So here's an example. I have a Roku, a Fire Stick, of Apple. I have all these streamers, these little cheap
Yeah.
ones. I don't have a Shield.
Yeah.
If I do a search for, like, say, I pull up any movie I'm interested in, Roku comes down with like a list of here's all the places you can watch them. You know, a big long list with prices for each place.
Right.
Amazon's like, you can watch it here through Freevee or whatever. You know, like they'll give you like 2 or 3 places.
Yeah.
Apple gives it the same. Roku's the one that gives you the big, huge, long list and says you got all these places, all these options.
Sure.
Yeah, video won't do that. So I guess to Jonathan's point, probably the Roku is what you're looking for, Joe.
But I
Couple-
don't know if a frame rate matches. That's the whole key point of that
That I don't
question.
know.
Might be missing. You'd have to look that up because I don't do that.
Yeah. I don't either.
Wait, I do that. I haven't matched source content on the Apple for sure, and on the I think the Roku does it by default, doesn't it?
Mm.
Let me look this up.
Don't know.
Eric said in Europe, the European Union is in the process of forcing Apple TV to accept side loading. Good luck with that one, though. We'll see. We'll see. It'd be good if they do, but Apple's pretty tight, man. They kind of lock their stuff down, and you know they want it to work with everything of their ecosystem, basically. So, Jonathan, while you're doing that, I'm gonna hit another one. WA, have you guys tried out Sony's 360 spatial mapping on their new ES receivers? I haven't reviewed or heard any of the ES receivers. Only time I heard was one ES receiver, I think at Audio Device Live in one of the demo rooms.
I've
So
heard them, but they're in poor rooms, so I won't
yeah,
weigh in on that.
I
Next.
wasn't. Yeah. Any of you tried out or seen a homebrew build of Mad VR? I mean, there's a lot of guys. There's not a homebrew. And there's a PC version that's free. Doesn't do what like an Envy will do. It does some, but you got tone mapping. I think there's a couple other features, but um, just a lot more complex to set up and figure
It
out.
works well for tone mapping, though, as long
Yeah.
as you're okay with being your own IT support.
Yeah, like I said, you just gotta figure it out.
It's not
that's the hard
necessarily
part.
the simple thing, the simplest thing.
Yeah,
It expects you to understand video.
Paul, what's a good treatment for vaulted ceiling?
Before you go there, the
Okay,
previous question
you
about
figure it?
Roku,
Good.
it
Okay, cool.
does allow you to do frame rate matching. It's under settings, advanced system settings, advanced display settings, auto adjust display rate, refresh rate, and you choose enabled. And then it says the Roku player will automatically switch to the native format of the movie, video, or TV show when playback begins. So there you
What
go.
I'd recommend you do is at the end of this podcast, mark this time, go to it, replay that in about half speed.
Just Google, just Google search ROKU, Roku source frame rate matching. It'll be a
Nice.
first party article from Roku website.
You're awesome, man. All right, Paul says, what's a good treatment for a vaulted ceiling? So would something that hangs help? So I'm assuming he's talking about acoustic treatment in a vaulted ceiling.
I don't
But
think
the
it's really
vaulted
any.
isn't a vaulted kind of where it's like,
Yes.
Cathedral type ceiling.
I mean, just
yeah, I
putting
mean,
acoustic treatments and diffusion up there is going to be
yeah.
beneficial.
So, and I mean, frankly, all of them for the most part are hanging. Like I have a flat ceiling and mine are hanging.
You ideally want them to hang off.
Yeah, they have a little bracket that probably drops down 2 to 3 inches from my ceiling. So, and then there's about a 4 inch panel up there. So, yeah, so I think they're all going to be that way, Paul. Have you guys tried out? We got that one. Has Ryan always been bald, or am I just realizing this? You're just realizing this, Curtis. Man,
I haven't always been bald, but I've been bald for
been a little while.
6 months.
I guess like fully, like
Yeah.
it. Curtis, you got to come hang out with us more. Evangeliste, I asked last week, what's Jonathan thinks about manual versus auto calibration? Good question.
He
Whoa,
loves auto calibration.
I feel like I've talked about this multiple times, but
Yeah.
auto calibration is great to set your distances and your SPL levels, at least if you have nothing else. And then I turn it off on pretty much everything. Even when we had the turn off and storm in here, I prefer them off. So I like manual EQ over these auto EQs. And then I like doing a little smiley face EQ. I bring down 2 kilohertz a little bit. I bring down 1 kilohertz a little bit, and I boost the higher end, the 4 and 8 kilohertz, and I boost the low end. The 63, the 150, whatever. Your manual EQ will have a little bit different frequency points, but try a little smiley face curve. And if you don't like that, try a Harman curve, which is a boost at the left-hand side of the graph and rolls off to about the 500 hertz level and then rolls off again at the higher level. If you don't like treble, you might like a Harman curve. So you can do a lot with manual EQ and some tinkering, just adjust it to your ears. All these systems, they try to make like a razor flat EQ.
Yeah.
And like we talked about, I don't even like a razor flat EQ. I like having a little extra boost and I like a little extra sizzle in the treble. So like, what are you're changing it to something I don't even like? You might make it perfect. I don't like it. That's where I fall out.
It's very subjective.
Mm-hmm.
Auto room
go
EQ,
ahead.
you're at the behest of whatever they're doing. Some of them allow you to change things depending on how far in, but then you have to understand what they're doing. And then really at that point, you're probably better off just doing it yourself if you have the capability and your hardware has the capability to do it.
Yeah. And if you even want to get into that, I mean, like I'm a guy, I'm okay with Odyssey doing its thing. I make some tweaks, make my own preferences, adjust some trims, adjust some crossovers. But for the most part, the EQ part of it, I just kind of let it handle it. Because I know it's probably going to do a better job than I would because I just don't know that. I don't want to learn it.
Something I always thought would be fun, and I never did it, but I would recommend it for the price if you want to really learn it. They make Pro Audio, multiple companies make these 32 band graphic equalizers. They would fit in your rack. They're 1U size. If you don't have a rack, they're about 19 inches wide or so is the standard rack format. And they have 32 bands, like the old radios used to have, where you had 5 bands or 7 bands or 9 or whatever. You can play with each individual frequency and really learn what your ear likes. Those are like $100 or $150. You'd hook that into your system between your processor and your amplifier, and then you could just tailor it to what you like. And once you learn what you like, then that transfers to almost any system you're going to listen to in the future. And it might have a little variance per song, but you're going to find a curve that you like. And there's like we talked about, there's different curves. Like what Trinoff had, like 6 different curves. Storm probably has a few different curves you can choose. If they say here's 6 you can try, but you can develop your own, and then that, like I say, that transfers. Any receiver you get in the future, any processor in the future, you can kind of redial that in.
Spenda says, so those Germani Systems theaters really cost $500,000. Really like the setup that was reviewed with the network switches, but 500,000 is a little steep. Yeah, you're right. It is a little steep. And yes, Germani's not inexpensive. His products are quite expensive. But there's a lot of companies out there that are the same. You look at Wisdom Audio, you look at, oh goodness, Wilson Audio. There's tons of brands out there that can get really, really pricey. The good thing about home theater is every one of us has a budget. Even millionaires have a budget. It might not be, it may be like the amount that they're just willing to spend on whatever they're buying, but we all have a budget. And the reality is there's a product for every budget. You know, if you got $1,000, you can find something. You got $5,000, you can find something. You got 50,000, you can find something. And if you got 500,000, you can find something. Every hobby is pretty much like that as well. You know, you can go into it and just kind of play in the water, or you can dive into the deep end, man, and get lost in the ocean. So there's plenty out there. That's the analogies I come up with when I'm sick.
Rob Snyder has a question I'd like to hit if we could.
Yeah, do it, man.
He says, would it be beneficial to put acoustic treatment on top of a drop ceiling? And that answer is absolutely. Absolutely. And it doesn't have to be anything more than like absorption, in my opinion, but it will help stop transfer of the SPL levels from your home theater to the extra spaces. It can work as like a giant bass trap in a way to kind of absorb things. It deadens the room a little bit. Like, it's beneficial. And not only just a drop ceiling, but your drop ceiling tile matters too. These tiles that are in my room are called Certainty Theater Black F. And before I had those tiles, I had the little traditional like white ceiling tiles that are just the standard thing in all basements and across the United States. Those things with my 8 subwoofers dropped dust every time the bass hit and rattled like just something horrible. So these are basically OC703 fiberglass boards, if you're familiar with that type of acoustic material. They have an NRC rating of 0.65, and they have a covering on them that's like a matte black. It's supposed to be a 3% light reflectivity rating, and they're about $10 a tile for a 4x2. And so I have those on across my entire ceiling. They don't rattle at all. Without changing a single thing, I went from unusable, completely unusable because there's so much rattle, to no rattle. And then I put 9 inches of pink fluffy above them, which became like an absorption thing to kind of help deaden the room. And I think that worked really well. So,
and I would even add to that, wouldn't it be possibly beneficial to even add some below it as well?
Because some extra panels hanging.
Yeah.
If you felt like you needed it, sure. I mean, you could play with that and just, like we talked about earlier, experiment.
Because you're going to get the high frequencies are still going to bounce off of that. And so that top part is just going to be all reflective for the most part.
No, these are soft. This is like you could.
So high frequencies are going to travel through that?
They'll be absorbed by that. Absolutely.
Really? Interesting.
Yeah. Because
I really thought that would just reflect right off of that.
No, it'd have to be a hard surface. Some people will do stuff like put a layer of effectively like thin plastic or cellophane or something over there to kind of reflect, because it's kind of considered a harder surface. But these are porous. This is a very porous material.
Okay, interesting.
Like you could breathe through it. So it's just going to absorb those frequencies. It's not a tile in the sense
I'm
of
thinking ceiling tiles.
You're thinking like a hard, yes. It's not that at all.
Okay.
This is, you know, that yellow OC, it's called OC703. It's a type of fiberglass. It's
correct.
a rigid fiberglass.
Correct.
This is that.
Yeah.
With like a matte black cloth
on the bottom.
covering.
Interesting.
Yes.
I
It's
did
not
not know that.
hard. You
I
could
thought
hit
you
this
had
with all your
ceiling
strength and it
fans.
would make no noise.
Okay. Yeah, that's totally different. I'm thinking of like at church, you had
Mhm.
these big 12 by 12 squares and,
Yeah, just like
you
a
know,
painted black it's not clay, it's the
okay.
normal ones are like cardboard or some sort
Yeah,
of like recycled
it's
paper board or something.
yeah. So
The
that would be a
those
hard
no.
That's what I was
Yeah,
thinking.
that
I'm
would
like,
reflect.
I was like, how is a high frequency not going to bounce off that? I got you. But that
Mhm,
makes way more sense why your room sounds so good.
mhm.
So, because you've got absorption. Let's see if we can crank through some of these. Let me go back to the pinned ones. Monoprice amps, love it. I have an X. I'm sorry, I have a 11X. So it's 200. I'm sorry. Oh my gosh, losing my mind. 200 by 3, and then the other 8 channels are 100 watts a piece. I love it, man. It's all inclusive. It's made by ATI as far as the um, kind of the design of it. ATI has been making solid amplifiers, so I love mine. A lot of times on the podcast, we've shared that, you know, if you did a blind test between super high end amp versus a lower one, you might be able to hear some subtle differences like a noise floor, maybe some hiss, but as far as it's just a solid amp, man. Mine's been rock solid. Yeah. Aaron said he's got the 7X. He loves it. Hard to beat for the money. Um, so yeah, those are great amps. Ryan sells Buckeyes. He loves the Buckeyes.
I
I
got
like
some
the
reverb
Buckeyes
coming
that
from somebody. There's echo coming from somebody.
nothing on my phone that would do that.
You
I
still
think I
hearing
hear
it?
it too.
Yeah.
No, I don't. Do you
No,
guys see a feed on it or something?
no, I don't hear anything.
I
Turn me
hear it
down.
when Michael talks.
Check 1 2. I hear nothing. Um, all right, we'll keep
Well,
going.
while we're figuring that out, someone was skirting back to that the last couple questions ago where we were talking about graphic equalizers. Someone's saying, what are you talking about? Give me a brand, give me a model or something." Go to Sweetwater, which is a U.S. vendor for audio gear that has a lot of different stuff online, and type in graphic equalizer. There's a lot of different brands. There's Behringer, there's DBX, there's Art, like they have a lot of different brands, and they're anywhere from 120 bucks all the way up to like $1,500. You don't need to buy anything that expensive. Like the little $100, $200 type range will do what you need to do. And they should I just pull it up? You want me to? Oh, you got it pulled up. Very good.
Dude, you can't beat me. Look at there, man. We got that ain't even a smiley face at that point. That's a
Well,
sine
that's
wave.
just like Christmas decorations. That's stupid.
But yeah, so
but,
Behringer, I mean, you're
but if
talking
you look at
100.
like zoom in on that again, Michael, you can
There
see
you go.
those frequencies are rated on there. It looks like at the left is I can't
20 hertz,
all, but
20, 25, 30, 40, 50, 60,
yeah,
100, 125, 150, and then it goes all the way up to 20K.
so you play with that while you're listening to your favorite music and you see what you like. And for my years or many years of playing with this stuff, I like just this little smiley face, just as what you would expect it to be. It dips in the middle and rises at both ends. Harmon would be the top left is high and then it drops to the middle and then it drops in again on the right hand side. Subjective, as Ryan had mentioned
Mhm.
earlier, that's a subjective choice. But if you just had it all flat, like if you think about it in your car, this is the same sort of stuff in your car. You got a bass, you got a mid, and you got a high EQ. If you go into the system settings, this is like that with a whole lot more ability to be granular with it. If you like a 000 in your car,
Mhm.
then maybe you like a flat EQ. But if you like boosting the bass by 3 dB and boosting the treble by a dB or two, you probably like more like a smiley face EQ, like I do. Anyway, that's that.
Dwayne says, good evening. I received my second SVS 1000 Pro sub today. I would like to know if I'm using 2 subs and my receiver runs 1 port. So he's got 1 sub out on the receiver, on the AVR. For both subs, okay, so he's got like 2 sub outs, one going to each. Do I need to set the second sub setting like the first sub? I don't know what setting you're talking about, and there's a lot of settings you can talk
I'm
about.
taking that as he only has one sub out for
Uh,
both.
if I'm running 2 subs, my receiver runs 1 port.
One sub out.
Oh,
Probably.
1 port for both subs.
Hmm.
I yeah, I'm not sure if he means it has 1 port. Okay, he might have said each sub, I guess. So if it's got one, you're gonna need to split that signal, get an RCA splitter, you would use a male to 2 females, and then you would extend that with an RCA male to male. If that makes sense. I've
I
got
think he's talking about the SVS um, OSD
what
that they have, the little screens that you can change the settings and the phase and all of that on the SVS subs.
so that's in the app.
Some of them you can do it on the sub itself.
Well, yeah, I mean app's easier, but yeah,
But I
I
think
mean
what
it's
he's
got a
asking is,
DSP.
do you want it to be set exactly like the other one? It
I
depends.
mean,
If it's in a different position in the room, it's going to need to
yeah,
be set
it's gonna have some
potentially
difference.
differently.
Yeah,
But in
and
the
they
app,
have
I
the
don't know what control you have.
we have there's 3 channel P or three. There's a 3 PEQ, so EQ could be different on each one of them. You wouldn't have that the same. There's of course gain level. There is crossover. Crossovers should be about the same. Um, phase one could be need to be out of phase, so it's hard to say that each one's going to need a certain thing. Best thing to do, we've always told you guys, get a calibration microphone, take some measurements, try different settings. That's the only way you're going to be guessing if you don't.
Unless they're co-located.
Yeah, true. And
The other little
co-located means
caveat
it,
is if you're splitting the signal because you don't have a way to set phase on them,
Mhm.
the receiver doesn't have a way to set differences. You
Correct.
probably want them equidistant from the main listing position as much as
Yeah,
possible.
that makes sense. Let's see. Are monoprice cables any good? Been using them for years. Yeah, I don't have any issues with monoprice. They're inexpensive. Cables are cables for me.
I got a little something to
Um,
add to that one, Michael.
do it, man.
You know, we've been in this hobby for quite a long, each of us now, and so
Yeah, I'm
some of
getting
the cheap
old.
cables you buy over the years, they're like tarnishing out, and they're
Mhm.
the gold plating is not gold, and now it's
Mhm.
bronze or brown. You know,
Yeah, those
I have
monster
some
cables
old
I've had.
monoprice cables from 2 decades ago that are
Yeah,
still like they still are holding up really well, and they're not
sure.
like what's like oxidized out. That would be the
Yeah.
right term.
On the
So,
flip side of that, I had some monster cables from way back in the day, and I pulled them out one day, and they were green. No lie,
hmm
because they were clear. I'm like, that's probably not good. There may
that'd
be
be
mold.
copper oxidizing, probably at that point turning green.
Yeah.
But they always gold plate those things because gold isn't supposed to oxidize. But you find out
Yeah.
who's really using gold plating after
Mhm.
5 years when it's not
Mhm.
gold anymore.
Yeah, makes sense. Here's a great question, JR. This may be a dumb question. No dumb question, brother. I like the question. Do you guys ever clean the interior AV equipment? Dude, I don't even clean the exterior. How am I going to clean the interior? I mean, for real. You guys ever take the lids off and dust them out?
I do on occasion, but not very regularly. I mean,
Mhm.
certainly with amplifiers like
Mhm.
Pro Audio, they move a lot of air because of the
Yeah,
fans. They
right.
get full dust bunnies in there. So every
Yeah,
couple of years, I'll do that.
yeah. That's good. Nothing wrong with doing that. Now, I guess a good question is, do you use something like, because there's different ways of cleaning it. Do you take a little brush? Do you do
Compressed
compressed
air is
air?
the best and not
Really?
close. Yes,
Okay.
and not close. People use vacuums and they put the vacuum up in there, and that creates electrical. From what I've read, you can
Mhm.
fry stuff by doing that
Yeah.
because the velocity of the air when you get a vacuum close enough to actually suck something, not
Mhm.
to mention pulling off like components with the
Mhm.
vacuum, but the velocity of the air creates an electrical charge. It can fry sensitive components. So don't use a vacuum as the bottom line there. Compressed air, far away, not high pressure, blow it out.
Yeah, because if you, well, the other thing, sometimes if you hold it the wrong way, you can actually shoot like liquid in there.
Liquid.
So
I use
that's
an
not good.
actual, and I'm not thinking the same thing you are there. I use an actual air compressor, like in the garage, and then I have there's a little pistol grip gun that lets you shoot air with it, and then there's no liquid that way.
All right, I'm gonna show you something. Let me put this up real quick. This will be another option for you too. Let's do this. So part of this is we're testing some stuff. But I think this is kind of cool. Like I'm doing this on the fly right now. So it's loading, and then I'll be able to show you something. There it is. Boom, and then finish. All right, cool. So this is another way to get rid of those little dust bunnies. I mean, not dust bunnies, the little,
Little
what they call
push
those,
pump,
air blowers.
basically. Yeah.
Yeah, so literally like you squeeze it and
Mhm.
it just blows the air out. So then you don't have to worry about liquids or anything.
Or you just leave all of the dust and let it flavor your sound.
So this is just one of the new features of this. So we can like show you stuff and you can QR code it or whatever. But anyway, that's pretty cool. All right. Just had to play with new toys. You know what it's like. All right. Back to the chat. Comments, pinned. All right, cool. We're getting down to the last ones. Nakamichi Dragon. Y'all had any experience with it? It's the biggest, baddest
No.
13 channel Dolby Atmos soundbar.
There's a big thread on, not a huge thread, but there's a thread on it in the speaker section of AVS. And there's somebody talking it up, and he brings up this point that it's got Atmos and that they had to send it off and that it's certified for Atmos. And guys, that's not what that means. Like there's laptops with Atmos. There's all different kinds of things with Atmos. All it means is they're paying for the marketing, really. So I think it could be a decent sound bar, but it's a lot of money for a sound bar. And I think you're going to get a lot of that performance out of like a Blue Sound or a Sonos, or
Yep.
if you want to spend the money, a Sennheiser. I mean, Nakamichi had a lot of good stuff about its name way back, but I think now it's owned by a marketing firm or
Yeah.
something like that. So I don't think it has the same
Yeah.
stuff that it used to.
I don't have any experience. I haven't heard it. So, I mean, a lot of guys that have heard it, they like it. But I mean, at the end of the day, it's still going to be a sound bar. You're still using some trickery to try to get an immersive experience all around you. So, reflecting sound off the ceiling and the walls and such.
with itty bitty speakers,
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, usually about 2 or 3 inches at most.
if that.
That one may be bigger just because I mean, it's pretty expensive. So HD movie source, if you had 5,000 to spend on subs, would you buy 4? Heck yeah, if you can. Or buy 2. So to me, the hard part is 4 to 2. That's going to mean you got to buy a much lower end subwoofer. And I'm a big fan of buying the best subwoofer you can buy. And even buying used, get 4. I don't know. There's a lot of options there. I don't think.
What do you think about something like 4 of those HSU VTF 15Hs that you reviewed?
Now, those are solid.
I think that'd
bro.
be a pretty solid option.
But
4
would
of
you do
those-
that over like 2 RS1s?
Well, the 2 RS1s aren't going to fit in his budget.
I would probably recommend 4 most of the way top tier drivers like the HSU VTF 15 versus 2 top tier drivers because I think there's a lot of value that comes with the smoothing, that comes with quantity of subs. I mean, Michael, even in your room the other day when you were testing the 2 Arendelles, you were still fighting a little bit of noise. If you had 4, you'd probably be able to fix it with 4 of them where you had a smooth response.
But I need a bigger room.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
I had to move one of the theater seats out of the way and put a sub there. Let's see. Just got another super chat. Tar Hoya. Appreciate the $5 super chat. Shout out to Jonathan for recommending those Manoir seats. My back fell in love with the cloth version made from Macy's. I tested at my local showroom. Fantastic, man. I love it. And he's rocking that 80. What's the new Hisense? Oh, 100-inch. He's got the 100-inch Hisense.
That $3,000 deal? Did he get it?
Dude. He got it cheaper than that, I think. It was so crazy. He had like credits or something. I forget how it worked out, but
Best Buy paid him to take it out of the store.
yeah, man, he got a youth man deal on that joker. He got a youth man deal on top of a youth man deal. All right, last few questions here. 4-speed woofers, 12S. Will that feel? We did
We
that
talked
one, right?
about that one.
Perfect.
That was the one we talked about with
Michael. Why don't you put electronics in the projector room? Projector room? Ain't no projector room. That's like top of a closet. I mean, like literally, it's the top of a closet. I mean, there's a lot of things I could do, but honestly, I don't want to have to rerun and rebuild and reconfigure. And yeah, I just don't know if it would benefit me much, honestly. The issue isn't where the electronics are. The issue is I when I review speakers, they get put in front of that cabinet, and then it makes it difficult to get to. So, um, trying to replace my front speakers. I have the Von Schweikert. I hope I pronounced that right. I've heard some of those. He's got the left and right, aerial acoustics, CC3 for center. So, kind of a mismatch there. Looking at Martin Logan Motion or Martin. I'm kind of confused. So you got the Von Schweikert in the front, left and right, aerial acoustic center. So maybe he's looking to either go with Martin Logan Motion or the Arundel
That would
1720.
be my guess.
That's kind of the way I'm reading that. The
I
Von
think he just wants to
Schweikerts,
have
man, are
4 different
expensive.
kinds in his theater. He wants 4 different brands of theater.
Yeah. Yeah. Von Schweikers are very expensive, like
Mm.
crazy, crazy expensive. So that you got a nice high end system, but they're typically like a 2-channel setup, usually. I don't even know if they make a center channel.
I never heard
I
those.
love the
I'll look 'em
Motion
up.
speakers. I've got the Motion F200s system in my living room. I'll have a full review on that coming soon. As soon as my voice gets a little bit better, I'm gonna do the. I've already got all the information, my thoughts written out for the Arundel 1723. I still think they're a great system. Really, really enjoyed that system. Really only have one negative for the most part. On the subwoofers, I got one little negative thing. But overall, they're still a solid system. Man, that is a fight to get to that mute button before I cough right in your ears. Um, man, if you can hear them at all, I'd encourage you, Ruben, to try to listen to both of them. They're gonna have a different sound. Um, Jonathan reviewed the 1723s. Not the sound for him. He's got um, his JBLs speakers, line arrays. I've got my JTRs. You know, they're definitely. I'm not swapping them out for my JTRs by any means. But I think they're still a great speaker. I think Martin Logan's a great speaker. So cosmetics may come into that as far as the way they look, style, size. There's a lot of factors that go in there. But if you can hear them, man, I would definitely go check them out. I'd love to get Martin Logan. We had their Motion XTs last year, and I'd love to get Arundel to come out and bring a system there at M-Wave 2024. So I'd love to have that. Somebody read this one for me if you don't mind.
Hi guys, name's Pringle. I'm building in Zimbabwe and there's nowhere to really listen to speakers, but I found a deal on Clips Pro 18 RWS and the Pro 25 RW LCR on the budget. But are these decently good? I haven't heard those, so I don't
I
know.
don't know him.
Michael's the Clips guy, but maybe these are international versions that he hadn't heard these. I don't know.
So Pro 18. So Clips does make some Pro audio kind of subs. It's what they call their Cinema series. Pro 18 RWS. Clips Pro 18 RWS. I see an RW. That's an in wall. My daughter's in there singing something about Christmas. That's hilarious. Can y'all believe Christmas is next weekend?
It's not. It's
Crazy.
next
Pro
Monday.
18 RWS. I'm not finding that. Pro 18 RWS. Is that a subwoofer?
No idea.
Yeah,
Probably.
okay, so I bet it is. The 18 RWS is probably their subwoofer. It's like an in-wall. Um, man, that's really starting to hurt. And the Pro
I
25.
mean, they got
LCR.
Pro 18 RW that's like an in-wall and it's not a subwoofer.
Yeah, so I'll pull this up.
Maybe he's doing S's plural and he's talking about Clips Pro 18.
Yeah, so this is what I'm seeing right here. This is the RW. So these are budget friendly in-wall speakers. But that's a two-way, so that's not a subwoofer. I mean, they're definitely not super cheap, but if that's what you're, and let me know if you're in the chat. All I'm finding is this in-wall speaker. So it's a two-way in-wall. That's the only thing I'm seeing.
I think that's exactly what he's talking about because the
Yeah.
Pro 25 RW is just like a larger version of that.
Okay, yeah. And again, I haven't heard any Klipsch in-walls. I've heard Triad over the years. I just heard Perlison. Those are phenomenal, but they're really expensive. Yeah, as far as like, are they going to be great? Unfortunately, he's in Zimbabwe, so he just doesn't have a lot of places he can go and listen to them and demo them. If you can get them at a great price, like you said, these are, he says, I thought he said he can get a good price on them. Found a deal on Klipsch. So if you found a good deal, hopefully, if it doesn't, well, hard part there with end walls, you've already cut your drywall. So if it doesn't work out, then that's going to be expensive. So the reality is we all have a budget to work with. As far as will they be a decent speaker? I'm sure they will. But I'm not familiar with that particular model. Ryan, read this one if you don't mind.
Ryan, could you discuss or educate us on the directional bass with multiple subwoofers versus multiple subwoofers with the same signal? Can you really tell where bass is coming from if you use directional? So in my opinion, yes, you can, because you're not just reliant on your ears to localize. You're in a room, you're able to, in most of our rooms, depending, you're able to feel it. You're able to feel pressure waves. You're able to feel any type or hear any type of distortion or room vibrations or anything. So you're able to figure out what direction things are coming from. So it can. It's not as in your face as what a speaker is going to be, but it is cool to be able to feel things move from the front to the back of the room, depending on the frequencies at which they're being played. One of the things that can, well, I'll just leave it at that. So I don't think I'm going to do that. I'm going to just do front and rear. There's a lot of intricacies and stuff that can come with directional bass, and I don't really want to mess with it. I want the benefit of utilizing all of my subs at all the time. Better frequency response.
Let's knock through these. Nicholas, no worries, brother. I appreciate the super chat. Definitely no hard feelings. I'm just trying to keep the conversation clean and keep it family friendly. That's all it was. Appreciate it, Ben.
Stark is doing a buy one get one free now. It says.
Yeah, they run that sale
February.
pretty often. Seems like at least a couple times a year.
Yeah, it's not a bad option for 500 a pop.
Are y'all familiar with residential D-box seating?
Yes, it is not a ripoff. If you got the money, it's really cool.
I did I don't know what he means by residential D-box. I guess, well, that would just be what
it's the same thing. They use the same as commercial
components.
Theaters, as far as I understand it.
Yeah.
Tony has it. It's really cool.
Oh, it's phenomenal. I just didn't know like if his were commercial and if they've got a different.
No.
Okay.
It's
I
really
didn't know
expensive.
Valencia had it yet. I guess Valencia's doing it now, huh?
They do.
Well, they have tactile transducers. Do they?
No,
have...
they have D-box.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's right. They were working with the.
Yep, they do have D-box. It's on their website.
I do remember that now. I remember they were talking about it.
But for like 3 seats, you're pushing $15,000 to $20,000.
Yeah.
Well, it's saying here it's $8,300 a seat.
Yeah.
Right.
They're expensive. Yeah.
So that's $30,000 almost.
It depends on the number of transducers you're doing.
Yeah, it can get expensive. Let's see. Jeff says, "Do any of y'all have experience or know someone that has used the Stereo Integrity HT18s? $200, really good bargain. You got to admit."
Yes, they are a good bargain. That's what Sheldon has, and his bass. We've said this a bunch of times.
His will mess you up, dude.
He has 8 of those things. When Michael was over there,
I didn't remember that.
4 in each corner, loaded top
insane.
to bottom in the corner, and those are. At the time, he got those, and I probably get in trouble for saying this, but I think he got those for like 120 because it was some sort of introductory model when that came out, an introductory price.
Mm-hmm.
That room, Sheldon's room, has some of the best bass I've ever heard in any room.
Yeah,
and it's full of just little inexpensive subwoofers. Those
Doesn't
are
he
good
have
deals.
16 now?
He's up to 16 of them, and I haven't been over there yet since he's got 16. I want to check it out pretty soon.
This is what we do to each other.
You're cracking me up, Nicholas. Appreciate it. All right, last few here.
You said
Oh, my
that like
voice.
17 times.
I know, but I haven't started anymore, man. I'm trying to.
I'm not star.
We're
You
trying to
said
help you
don't
guys as
star
much
him
as
a
we
while
can.
ago.
Can I get a quick rundown? Is this quick? There probably won't be. Quick
No, that's
rundown of the
quick.
process. All right, go ahead.
Can I get a quick rundown on the process to set levels when running manual calibrations? Are you trying to get phantom images equal distance between opposing speakers? I would start by establishing a reference point, whatever that is going to be. You could do 75, 85 dB, depending on what you're trying to do. And then measure each speaker using an SPL meter and equalizing the gains. And then what I will typically do is then go back and adjust. Well, I'll go back and then adjust, do my impulse, after doing all of my toe ins, I'll do my SPL and impulse, and then I'll start to mess with getting the phantom images and stuff correct, because I prefer going back and making sure that the image is here instead of, maybe off to the left or off to the right or wherever it may be. Usually that has to do with impulse, but it's not rocket science. Jonathan, do you do it a different way?
I
SPL
usually
meter?
just let auto EQ set my distances and so forth, and then to get since I'm using Odyssey, it's setting to 75 on the test tones because it's got a 30 dB offset. So I do exactly that. I take my SPL meter and I just verify that Odyssey got it right, and it usually does. But just make sure they're all at 75 dB as you go around the room. Hold the SPL meter at about head height, forehead height, a little higher than your head. Run around and make a little tiny adjustments if there's anything to be made, and then that's it. You're good as far as getting the SPL trims and the distances set that way. So auto EQ set my distances, and I'm validating auto EQ got the SPL trims correct. And then to me, that's good enough. I mean, you can really go into and Ryan's talking about it. You can go into like OmniMic RW and check your impulse response and make sure that you've got your peak as just as perfectly singular as possible, that it's not echoing that peak. I don't typically take it to that trim. I've played with that a little bit before, but I to my ears, I feel like Odyssey does good enough with its settings for that. And more to the point, like I said, we were testing with Trinoff and we were testing with Dirac in my room the last couple weeks, and those do it better than Odyssey. They do it more accurately than Odyssey, but Odyssey's good enough to my ears. And also, I'll mention this. That impulse response, when you're setting that up and you're being very, very precise, that's for exactly one position. If you move an inch over, that impulse is gone. It's not exactly perfect anymore. So you can get lost in the weeds on that pretty quick, in my opinion, to where you're chasing, you're tilting at windmills, chasing dragons, however you want to word it.
Got a super chat.
Where's that?
What is the audiophile stereo listening in the void, which is my theater, based on? External DAC streaming devices are integrated in Trinov or Storm. Cannot remember which one Ryan is planning. So as of right now, it's looking like it's probably going to be the Storm. I already have one, so it just simplifies the whole equation. I have done the DAC testing. I cannot tell the difference. I have the X-Saber Pro X or whatever it is that's really high up on the Audio Science review, and I've put that up against the Storm, and I can't tell. So there's no reason for me to run dedicated DACs. The Trinov and the Storm have good enough DACs. Once you pass a certain threshold in human hearing, it just, in my opinion, it stops mattering. And there are some big names in the industry that would agree with that. So I just want it simple. I don't want to have to jump through a bunch of hoops to get what I want. I do use a streamer so that it's nice and easy to connect my phone to whatever I'm streaming into for music. If I'm doing surround, I use an Apple TV, and it all just runs through my pre.
Excuse me, got another. I like how it types it out here. It says pair character lying on the side, raising his arm while saying, "How's it going?" I love it. That's what we see on the back end. That's hilarious. I appreciate it, Derek.
Michael, there's a question in here for you and I talking about if we
Yeah.
had the opportunity to upgrade our XD, Seymour XD screens, would we do it, or is it still what we would choose, or what's your
Yeah,
thought
I
on
mean,
that?
I think the only reason for me to upgrade is if like I felt that the weave was distracting. Some people say that um, you need to be about 11 feet. I think even Seymour will say they recommend being about 11 feet from the screen.
Hmm.
I sit 9 feet from the screen, but I'm also kind of blind. I mean, I don't have the best vision in the world. So I've never once been watching the video, watching a movie going, man, I can kind of see that weave in there. Never once. So that would be one of the benefits is having they make they make several others, but one of their weaves, I think it's
4K
still in there.
Enlightener or something like that.
What is it? Well,
4K Enlightener
I
or
think
something.
that's the more expensive. That's on the Seymour Excellence.
Okay.
But in the Seymour Center, I have the Seymour Center Stage. There's one called
The XD.
maybe it's XD, but it allows you to get closer
Center stage
to.
is XD though. That's what we
The
have.
center stage is XD.
I mean,
The
not XD.
Neo,
I'm looking.
the
Hang on.
Neo is the center stage or the screen
Screen.
excellence. Excuse me.
All right. So I have the DIY version. So
Should
yeah,
be
so
the
there's
center
a Center
stage.
Stage XD is which is what I have. It was called the Center Stage UF. So that is
Ultra fine.
yeah. So I mean, you can get real close to it. I think then lighter, you can get really, really close to it, which is what I think Matthew Pose has. So that's really, to me, I mean, I just don't feel like I'm missing anything. So I enjoy my Center Stage. What about you, Jonathan?
I feel the exact same way. And there's also another benefit. I think there's only one. Pixel Pusher 15 did a comparison of a bunch of different brightness tests with these different acoustic transparent material. I think there's only one material that beats the Seymour XD after all these years. That
Oh
this
wow.
screen came out all these years ago. The other thing that's nice because it's kind of a plastic coating. Like I, the other day
Easy to wipe.
I noticed there was a bug on my screen
Yeah.
that had been smashed by
Yeah.
probably one of my kids or something. There's bug
Yeah.
guts on there, a little bit of blood, and if I that was a fabric, what would you do? Yeah,
Yeah.
that'd be hard to get out. Seymour XD is like a plastic. You just wipe it off. Do a little
Yeah.
dishwater soap and it's gone. There's no
Yeah.
that's so convenient. I got
Hmm.
kids down here. Their handprints on the screen sometimes and stuff.
Yeah.
That is not a problem with that
Yeah.
Seymour screen. So
Yeah.
that's a big benefit.
I just take like a washcloth with water and I just
Hmm.
wipe it down every once in a while. I don't even know if I need it, but I think my subwoofers keep mine clean. Um, just continually blowing it. So there's no dust bunnies back there at all. So, all right. I got, yeah, we got his. All right. We're down to the last few. Uh, 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 mm. Actually, see, we got that one. We got that one. Oh man, I'm loving this. Boom. I'm unchecking them, baby. Yeah, these are ones that we already covered. Okay, here we go. Medieval says, what do you recommend for Atmos ceiling mounted locations? It's got 4 SVS prime elevations, smallest living room, set up for the best overall performance. I would recommend going to, if you go to Google, and if you search for Dolby Atmos, I think it's called Layout Guide, Speaker Guide. Yeah, the first link it says Dolby. Here, I'll share my screen real quick. Makes it super easy. So I just search for Dolby Atmos Layout Guide, and you can see I've already been here plenty of times. You click on that, come down here to right here. So you figure out. Don't click these first ones. Usually, it's just keep scrolling. So here's 2.1 configuration, 3.1. What did he say he's got? So you've got,
Four.
let's say you have you had said the small rooms. Let's just assume you got 5 speakers in your bed layer, 4 Atmos speakers. So that's 5.1.4. So you can see these are up firing speakers. That's not what you have. You're going to be looking at this right here, 5.1 overhead speakers. So when you click on learn more, it's going to show you exactly where you need to place those. When you come down here, you want those front speakers anywhere between 30 degrees. So that'd be out here to 55 degrees, which would be here for your front. Same thing for your rears. So you got 125 degrees here, 150 degrees there. So easiest way to figure that out, you can just download like I think it's even called Protractor on your phone. It's like a level, and so you just kind of angle it up, and you go, okay, you can eyeball it that way. You can do physical math. I'm not good at math, so I use something like that. And I had a friend help me. But you can that's really what it is. And then there's another option here. If I click on this, it probably won't share it with you, but there's a whole PDF guide there as well, and it'll walk you through. But it's all about angles. It's not about distances. It's not about haphazardly placing it. They just give you a range, and if you can fit it in that range, that's ideal. So, any other thoughts on that, fellas?
Yeah, I mean, we just talked about it before. We all going to have a little subject preference. If you have to err on their direct
You
recommendations,
said go in, right?
that's my
Closer.
preference is closer in. If you're going to err,
All right, last two questions here, guys, before my voice totally gives out. Do any of y'all have experience? Oh, helps if I put it up there. Oh, we did that one. Hey, see, man, I'm getting more excited. Last question. Rick says, do any of you plan on using a wall fabric track system like a fabric mate? Would it solely and would solely using absorption behind the fabric be too much? Yeah, I would not just put absorption everywhere. You're going to want to have some combination of absorption, reflection. Um,
Depends on what he's doing behind the fabric mate. Like if he
I
just has concrete behind the fabric mate, he's going to want absorption of some
yeah,
sort.
but you'd want. But I'm saying, I guess what I'm saying
You
is
need something because you don't forget that things like drywall are absorbers. So if you just have concrete and other types of hard surfaces back there behind the fabric track, you need something back there that is a level of absorption
I
all
see
around
what
the
you,
room.
well, but what I'm saying is that all right, let's just think about panels. If a panel is again, I'm going back to even just hanging out with Matthew Pose. He recommends doing a section of absorption,
Yeah,
the
I
next
get
section.
that, but you're taking this further. I'm saying it
Okay,
depends on what the material is behind the fabric track because if we all have you guys have drywall in your rooms,
correct.
right? So
Yeah,
then you treat on top of the drywall, but you can't forget
I see
that
what
the
you're saying.
drywall is
Okay,
also an absorber.
gotcha.
So you have to think and take into consideration what is already back there.
Hmm.
So if it's concrete, you want to treat that differently than if it's drywall. It just
Hmm.
depends on what's there.
Right.
Um,
I see what you're saying.
in most situations, if you've got something that's not concrete, I would recommend doing what Michael said with different levels of absorption and diffusion. But if you've got concrete back there, you're going to want to do some level of absorption and moisture control and other things.
Yeah, yeah, I didn't go all that. I put panels on top of my drywall
Well,
all day
I
today.
only say that because I'm doing it, right? I'm
Yeah,
down to my layers.
yeah, for sure. Oh man, that is the last question we're gonna hit tonight. I know there was a ton. Oh my gosh, there was a ton of questions. Every week there's a ton of questions, and I don't know. There's not a good way to get them all. It's physically we could literally be here all night because you guys would still hang around because there's still 200 of you in the chat. So
We've
we
had
appreciate
200
you
the whole
guys.
time. I
Yes,
remember when we had like
we got
50.
well, it went up to about 240
I
while
saw
we were
that.
on here. Hang on a
They're
second.
here really just because of Jonathan. Let's be honest here.
it's the hat.
Uh,
It's
It's
the
the
what's
hat.
that?
hat.
That's the hat.
It's the hat,
That's
man.
why they're here.
Yeah, we're gonna make it big too because we just want to see that in all its glory. There you go. Bam. Love it, man. Well, guys, y'all have been amazing. Appreciate y'all in the chat. Appreciate you, Ryan, as well as Jonathan. Y'all are always a blessing, and I know that your heart is for the community, and that's why I appreciate you guys so much. Next week in the U.S. is Christmas next weekend, so um, I'm okay with not doing a stream next week because that'll be Christmas Eve.
Right.
Many of us will be busy with our families. So more than likely, we're not going to have one then. And that'll plus, I didn't realize like how today's the best my voice has sounded, but this last hour, man, I just see this joker's tanking. So, but part of it, I wasn't drinking enough water during the stream too. But Yeah, man, if you click the like button on your way out, that'd be great. If I was here to see it, if his voice would go out. That's funny. No, my voice is still going, but love you guys. Appreciate y'all. If you're in the U.S., Merry Christmas to you. Um, happy holidays to the folks that don't celebrate Christmas. But hope y'all have an incredible week. Is there a movie real quick? Y'all are, oh, you're not doing one this week. Okay. We'll start it back at the first of the year. Well, guys, we'll take care.